Safety Committee will get together. Today, to the viewing public, we will have an operational review for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police, Division of Fire, Division of Emergency Medical Services, Division of Animal Care and Control, and Division of House of Corrections, or Corrections. Some members are attending other meetings, so they'll be coming in a little shortly. Councilman Kelly is excused for he has a groundbreaking ribbon cutting something going on right now. So again, other members will be coming in once they leave their other meetings, and I appreciate all members of the administration being here. Director, the floor is yours. We're going to jump right into it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we're going to start off with public safety.
In fact, I would ask all members of the administration when they come to the table, please identify themselves for the viewing public. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Chair and Council members. I'm Wayne Drummond, the Director of Public Safety, and with me at the table is Assistant Director Nicole Carlton to my right, and also to her right is Fiscal Manager Michael Gelman. He's here to assist in answering questions relative to financial. He's our financial wizard, I call him down there.
Financial wizard. Huh?
Yes, Mike takes care of all our finances in the Department of Public Safety. And as folks come to the table with the different divisions, I'll identify them, or they'll identify themselves and their teams. We'll start off with Public Safety Admin. If the PowerPoint presentation is available, and we'll go through that and go right down the agenda as you outlined it, with the Division of Police, then the Division of Fire, and the Division of EMS, Division of Animal Care Control, and then we'll end it up with corrections.
Okay. What's going on here? Operational view.
They are working out, and now sometimes we have technical assistance. Yeah, so.
Okay.
But as we wait for the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation to get loaded, as I was appointed to the role of Director of Public Safety, I transitioned in from the Chief of Division of Police to my current role. I had the task of hiring several individuals, primarily assistant safety directors. I had, as you know.
Pardon?
We're going to go with the
Safety
We'll start with
administration?
that one first, yes.
Okay.
Yep, and then from there we'll go to the Division of Police. As I continue with that, I had the task of hiring assistant directors. I had 2 assistant directors when I started the role, that being Assistant Director Nicole Carlton, who I have to admit, and I'll say it publicly, really assisted me during my transition from the Chief of Police into the safety director role. Assistant Director really assisted me. I really appreciate that. I just want to say that publicly. And also we had Assistant Director Wendell Holt, who was in charge of facilities. They were the only 2 that was remaining. And so I had the task of hiring additional assistants. There's 4 assistant safety director roles for Department of Public Safety. So in that process, we interviewed and hired 2 additional safety directors, one being Christopher Violin. He's assistant safety director, as well as Jason Shatner. He was hired as well as assistant safety director. I like to say, and I stole them from different parts of the city. Christopher Violin came from superintendent of the internal affairs from the Division of Police, and Jason Shatner came from the law department. So they were hired on, and subsequent to that, I also hired senior strategist, which is Michael Herb. Again, stole him from the city of Cleveland as well. He's the Fusion Center director. So that was my staff, or is my staff, that I had to hire. And so they've been assisting me to help assist the divisions and give them what they need to be successful to carry out their missions.
So you have how many assistant safety directors?
I have 4 assistant safety directors.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, proceed.
Are we ready? That's the first one.
You ready?
Can we, is it, let me see. I don't think we are.
We're not ready? You want to call John Inez?
That's
No,
EMS.
CMS, no, it's not.
Yeah, that's EMS's.
Yeah, we need to go to,
That's not the right one.
The one he wants to use is over here.
so each of the divisions will come out, they have come up and talk about their operations and go over overview of the operations, and then obviously be available to answer any questions based on their operations.
Okay. Do you have any success here?
Sorry about the technical
all right.
difficulties.
That's- We do have it on our laptops, so,
Yeah, like I said, we're going to start off with
Okay.
admin as it comes up, and as far as the agenda for the administration, we're going to go with the departmental overview and divisional and sectional responsibilities and
Okay.
priorities and the staffing levels and vacancies. That should be it. Okay, let's
try
see.
it now.
There we
Okay,
go.
here we go.
All right, so
Okay,
now we're on.
technology, let's go.
All right, so we're going to go right into the, as far as the public safety admin, into the departmental overview, and which starts with our mission statement.
Okay.
And our objectives and so forth. And I'll just read the mission
Yes,
statement
go ahead.
for the Department of Public Safety. To preserve a safe city for those who live, work, and play in the city of Cleveland through effective management, facilitation, and oversight of the divisions of police, fire, emergency medical service, animal care and control, and corrections, including the development of policy, coordination of resources, organizing, budgeting, and the development and implementation of staffing. So our role in public safety is, again, to support the various divisions to make sure that they have the tools, the resources they need, the policies and procedures and so forth to be successful and carry out the mission to servicing the citizens and visitors who come here to the city of Cleveland. That's our overall mission. Some of our objectives in our endeavor to, again, provide the best possible service to our residents and community is to evaluate department-wide operations. Again, that's to support them in their missions, developing and implementing necessary policies, sustain and evolve department operations, to ensure that the divisions have the necessary technology to effectively and efficiently conduct their respective missions. The divisions cannot be successful if they don't have technology. Obviously, we're in the 21st century. It's imperative that the Department of Public Safety support the divisions in technology advances to give them the equipment to be more effective and more efficient, and that's part of our objective. And also to assist first responders, city employees, and general public in preventing, planning for, and protecting against, and responding to, and recovering from disasters and major events, natural or otherwise. As you know, we're all aware that we have numerous special events in the city of Cleveland. We just had several past weekend, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We had the championship series. Unfortunately, our Guardians lost. We had the Browns game, so we had quite a bit going on, all those special events. We have the Office of Emergency Management, which assistant directors in charge of, making sure that we're manning the EOC, part of our responsibility, which was open during that weekend. Again, to be able to facilitate and manage those special events and make sure that the divisions, and in particular, the Division of Police have the necessary resources to make sure that we can take care of folks when they come here for these special events. Also, we have to review, track, and investigate complaints regarding Division of Fire, Police, EMS, and so forth. Those are part of our responsibility, again, to make sure that they have the resources they need to be effective and we're providing the best services to our residents. And if not, then we have systems and in places to make sure that we hold folks accountable to the rules, regulations, and policies for the Department of Public Safety. Just as equally important is that although we have measures in place to hold folks accountable, the vast majority, and I have to stress that again, the vast majority of our employees in all the divisions and public safety admin are honorable, upstanding individuals that come to work daily and do their jobs outstandingly. So I want to make sure we put that out there. To also to work with the Division of Police to achieve a compliance with policies, procedures, and state and federal laws and the requirements of the consent decree. We've been under consent decree since 2015. Part of our responsibility in public safety is to make sure, again, that the Division of Police, again, has what they need to, or have what they need to be successful and come in compliance with the consent decree. The Division of Police, through the PAT and the command staff, are doing a outstanding job in working collaboratively to make sure that the Division of Police is in compliance with the consent decree. The PAT, again, with Dr. Anderson's leadership and Chief Todd's leadership through the Division of Police and her command staff are doing what they can to come in compliance. And if you look at one of the last reports from the monitoring team, we're doing that. We're becoming in compliance. We're turning a lot of the red from into green and otherwise. And again, just outstanding work. But it's just not the individuals I just mentioned. It's the men and women that go out daily on the streets, 24/7, providing the service. Sustaining and actually doing the work and staying within the confines of the Constitution, providing the service to our residents, and they're the reason why we're coming. We're the reason why we're coming within compliance of the consent decree. And again, this is public safety admin. It's just a summary, and the public safety administration is responsible for providing overall direction, support, and oversight of the individual operating department divisions. This includes researching, developing, updating policies, maintaining ethical and responsible fiscal control. That's why I have fiscal manager Michael Gelman here at the table with us, and because that's ultimately part of our responsibility is to make sure that we're fiscally responsible, and that's to make sure that we go through and look at everything to make sure that we're spending the community's dollars properly and appropriately. And now the divisions are doing just that. And again, I have to thank not only the division leads, but also Michael Gelman for assistance in that endeavor as well. The Office of Emergency Management, as part of the Public Safety Administration, maintains and staffs the city's Emergency Operations Center. I mentioned that before. Develops the city's disaster response plans and annexes, and coordinates incident management training programs for employees and key stakeholders. The Public Safety Inspector General, which we'll talk about briefly, and the manager of the Office of Integrity, Control, Compliance, and Employee Accountability are both part of administrative staff. The Inspector General is part of the consent decree. That's part of the requirement. We went through the process not too long ago through interviews and so forth to identify the best candidate for that role. I think we've done that, our part. Part of that is also to make sure that the Community Policing Commission is part of that process. We included them in that process. We have a candidate in place, and we're moving forward. The manager of the Office of Integrity, Control, and Compliance is basically an IA, internal affairs, for the Department of Public Safety. They're responsible for the divisions of fire, EMS, animal care control, and corrections, and so forth, to make sure that if we have any complaints, that they handle those. And it's also a quality control aspect for the Department of Public Safety. I'm going to go to the next slide. Here are some of the accomplishments for 2024, and again, this is through September, the successful hiring and onboarding of new chief safety director, senior strategist, as mentioned before, the 2 assistant safety directors into regular daily operations, replacement of 67% of the executive staff. And that was not an easy task, but we have a very capable and competent individuals in place to assist us through our operations in public safety. In the Division of Fire, for the first time in 10 years, promoted the ranks of battalion chief and assistant chief for the first time in 5 years, promoted ranks of lieutenant and captain for a total of 150 personnel advanced. That's significant. That's probably going to be part of the achievements and accomplishments for the Division of Fire, but I wanted to highlight that as well through the Department of Public Safety, because that was a partnership not only with the Division of Fire, but also Civil Service, HR, our office. So I want to make sure that we highlighted that. They had the installation of surveillance cameras in the East Bank of the Flats, which was a collaborative effort with Public Safety Admin, Division of Police, IT, and Flats East Bank. And again, I have to say publicly is because of not just because of Assistant Director Carlton, but she was part of to spearhead that, to get that completed. So that's, I believe, was a huge accomplishment, because the infrastructure was not there, so you had to include the infrastructure in there, which is a major task. So I appreciate again publicly all the efforts, not only Nicole Carlton, but others who were involved in that process.
On that point, how many cameras were installed? Do we know?
To the chair, it's 8 cameras, but there's multiple views on most of those cameras.
And they were installed for what purpose?
They were installed for the purpose of safety, security, and to assist the Division of Police with monitoring the East Bank of the Flats.
Okay, because as you're aware, many council members, including myself, have asked for and want additional cameras in our neighborhood. So at some point, and I doubt very much it will be today, but at some point, we're going to ask for a presentation as to where we are with that implementation. We believe it's very important, and I understand some of the concerns on East Bank of the Flats, but I would tell you, without any fear of contradiction, most members here would tell you they have concerns in certain areas of their wards as well that they would like addressed. So, okay, continue.
Thank you. Also, the design, coordination, execution of the 2024 Summer Safety Initiative. That was not only just with the Division of Police had a Summer Safety Initiative plan as well, and the Chief Todd and her staff can talk about that, but also from a public safety and a whole of government approach. I believe that was very successful, and we'll talk about that a little bit further as we progress through the presentations. And then police training, transition from the Justice Center to the Public Safety Training Complex. Again, that's the Public Safety Training Complex, which is the old South High. We're still in the process of renovating and getting things in place. But in the very near future, the Police Academy and other training aspect of not only the police division, but the other divisions will be done there. There's multiple training that's taking place currently. Again, I want to thank Assistant Director Holt for all he's doing there, and the other divisions as well for their help. And then last year was 8 out of 10 recent Public Safety Ambassador program graduated and have applied to our or are in the application process to become a member of one of Cleveland Public Safety Divisions. So that's important. We have an ambassadors program here in public safety, which last year had 15 individuals. They went through it, and several of those individuals went through the process and became, or in the process of, again, becoming one of the 4 divisions, or working for one of the 4 divisions, and they moved on to other employment as well. And ultimately, that's the goal. The goal is to get them employed, preferably in one of the divisions, but ultimately is to get them employed.
Okay. Just a brief question, because I want you to continue before we open it up. Of the 67% replacement of executive staff, was that due to vacancies?
To the chair, yes. When I came on as the safety director, I only had 2 assistant safety directors. I had a senior strategist that left, so And also, I had the manager of the internal affairs, basically, leave, so I had to replace quite a few
So
individuals.
there was no termination?
No,
just
no,
vacancy.
well, there was one.
One termination?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, continues. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Jones?
How many people do you have in your department, Mr. Chairman?
We're
Well,
going to get, it's coming up.
We're going to
Yeah,
get there.
it's coming up.
This is coming up. He's just touching on the...
Here are some of the priorities
points. Yes,
that we
go ahead.
identified. That's my staff and I sit down. We meet as executive staff weekly. I meet weekly with my assistant directors and my senior strategists, including fiscal manager Gelman. And then I also meet weekly with the executive staff of the divisions as well. And we go
Yes.
through the different priorities and different things, and they update me what's going on in their respective divisions. But here are some of the priorities that we identified, and that's identification on board a newly established public safety inspector general to meet compliance requirements of the consent decree and improve general oversight within the department. We're in the process of doing that. We believe we have someone identified, so we're in the process of again, identifying that person and moving forward with the Inspector General position. It's extremely important that we get that up and running, and that's one of our priorities, and we will do that, coupled with making sure that that person has a staff according to the consent decree to be able to carry out their mission. And also fully implement an unmanned aerial platform system for applications across all divisions. The Division of Police, and again, Chief Todd, I won't steal her thunder and her staff, you know, they're in the process now. They've already drafted a policy. They have the equipment in place to start a pilot program. But it's important that we do this and try to see if that aerial platform is applicable across the divisions, fire, as well as EMS and maybe even animal care control. So we're looking at a platform. My staff is working on that. So we have a platform throughout the Department of Public Safety in the various divisions. We're looking for that. That's a priority for us as well. And that's also advancing our technology capabilities.
And that's, so when you say unmanned, you're referring
Drones.
to the drones
Yes, sir.
that we purchased. Okay, thank you. Continue.
Also, its priority is to complete the planned emergency operations center, audio and visual equipment replacement and upgrade project. Assistant Director Nicole Carlton, she can speak more particular about the work, replacing all the audio and visual equipment relative to the real-time crime center, and she's the lead, one of the leads in that project. That's a priority for us as well, and as well a full implementation of public safety wellness app across all divisions. And I have to say, Nicole Carlton again is in charge of that. And by the way, I'm not overworking her. I hope I'm not. I task her with a lot of things, but hope I'm not overworking her. And then the other priority, which is the implementation, implement the use of results-based accountability to guide data-driven decision-making among and between the divisions pursuant to the city's 10-year strategic plan.
Okay, continue.
And this is to answer Councilman Jones's question. You know, he wanted to know about staffing levels for the 2024 budget headcount. Was 31 full-time and 15 part-time. Part-time are the ambassadors. The full-time count as of September 30th of this year was 30 full-time and 10 part-time. We went from 15 ambassadors to 10 this year. And the current vacancies is 7 full-time. And the 2025 approved positions are requested 37 full-time and 10 part-time. Again, the 10 part-time positions are the ambassadors, and we get into the additional full-time as well.
So what of the 7 full-time vacant, what positions are those?
If I can have Assistant Director. Oh, Mike, do you have? Okay.
Mr.
Go ahead, Mike.
Gelman, identify yourself again for the viewing
Yes.
public.
My name is Michael Gelman. I'm the fiscal manager for the Division of Public Safety Administration.
Yes.
The 7 vacancies
You
we
got the mic on? Pull it up front. Yeah, there
sorry.
we go.
Is that better?
Yes,
Sorry about that.
that's all right.
The 7 vacancies we have are the Fusion Center Director, the Administrative Assistant to the Director. We have a grant personnel person that we're in the process of interviewing and hiring for, our Public Information Officer, the manager of integrity and quality control. And then as we ramp up activities at the Public Safety Training Center, we are anticipating hiring another person there to assist with that, and receptionist for the front desk.
Okay. I want to stress the importance of having somebody on staff that works directly with council. We used to have much better lines of communication with members of city council as it pertains to notification, requesting of crime reports, and things of that nature. So again, I want some clarification. Is that through the safety administration, or is that through the division of police?
To the chair, that's to safety admin.
Okay.
You had mentioned specifically
Yes.
about having some liaison, obviously,
Yes.
the division of police to come up and they can talk about that specifically. You also mentioned about statistical information.
Right.
We have senior strategist Michael Herb. Part of the reason why he was brought on, again, is because he has a unique skill set where he's able to pull the information that you're referring to. Not only can he pull the data, he can analyze the
Yes.
data and bring that out. So we can give you from the division, from the Department of Public Safety itself, statistical information where you don't necessarily have to request that information directly from the divisions.
Okay.
We'll be able to pull that information from the Department of Public Safety ourselves.
The Fusion Center director has been vacant for how long?
Well, that's where, to the chair, that's where I stole Michael Herb from. So
Okay.
about 3 months it's been
3
vacant,
months.
somewhere around 3 months.
Okay.
But we're in the process of onboarding someone.
Okay. Let me see what else we have here. Questions of the committee, Councilman Jones. And I would ask everybody to be mindful of the time because we have a lot on our plate today. I'm going to ask everybody to stay within a 10-minute time frame, and if we need to put you back on, we'll do that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just looking here at the administrative side here, I know that we were budgeted for 46. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Director?
For the 2024 budget, we're budgeted for 31 full-time and 15 part-time. As of the 30th of September of this year, we had a full head count of 30 full-time and 10 part-time, so we had 7
So it's a
vacant.
total of how many?
I'm sorry?
Is a total of how many people? Is that 46?
40
40
currently.
currently
I'm sorry.
right now?
Thank you.
Okay, I see that. And then the total budget for the department is how much, Mr. Chairman, to the director? Is that 6 million?
What's the, Mr. Gelman?
Through the director, through the chair to the councilman, that's correct. 6.1 million was our budget for 2024.
I see. And Mr. Chairman, to the director, part of the mission is to preserve a safe city. Administrative staff is to run the entire overall police department. Is that correct?
To the chair, to Councilman Jones, no, we in the Department of Public Safety are here to provide, to assist the department or division heads to accomplish their mission. We're here to give them guidance, technology assistance, give them what they need as far as equipment, technology to be successful. The division heads run the divisions themselves. I do not run the divisions. I support them and make sure they accomplish their mission.
So you make sure you provide the infrastructure to assist them.
That's correct. What they need, vehicles, equipment, all those type of things to assist them to be successful. Not just overall assist them with policies and things like that administratively, again, to be able to accomplish their task, which is to provide the best possible service to our residents.
Looking at today where we are versus, say, 10 years ago, would you say that we're more better financed off today than what we were before? It seems like we were, in years ago, we're very frugal.
To Councilman, through the chair, through Councilman Jones, I don't think, we are frugal in what we do relative to making sure that the dollars that are budgeted to us, we stay within those budgets. That's a priority for us. You'll see as we progress through this presentation, the various divisions that sometimes we go over those. You know, for example, the overtime amounts. We're over that, but it's not because we're just spending it for the sake of
Now, the reason
those are
why
the-
I'm asking
okay.
you that, Mr. Chairman, to the director, is because I know that this council and this administration has approved a lot of money to go to the police department so that we can make sure that our police officers have the equipment and the resources they're supposed to have, as well as to hire more police officers. And so when I speak of a little bit more money has been added, that's what I'm talking about. Can you talk to that?
To the chair, Councilman. Yeah, generally the budget does go up each year. And yes, the dollars that were given to us for equipment, we spend on equipment. The dollars that are given to us for hiring recruits, we are in the process of doing that. Our Division of Police is in particular in the process of doing that. We're budgeted for, I believe, 180 recruits, where certainly the Division of Police is certainly doing everything within their power to hire 180 recruits. In fact, we hired 2 classes. There are currently, I believe, 71 in the academy right now, 71, 72 recruits. So with a class graduating next month, the other class graduating early next year, and then we're in the process.
So you're working to get that on?
Yes, sir. And we're in the process.
So then the next question, Mr. Chairman, is, and I know you like to talk, so
Sometimes I do.
I don't want you to talk my time away. So,
I got you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just, so don't disrespectful. I'm just trying to
Chair, none
cut to
taken.
the chase here. The reason why I asked you that was because I know that the Public Safety Administration, do you help to set all of the policies, look at best practices and policies of other police departments?
To the chair, to Councilman Jones, the Division of Police, they are empowered to do that, and they do that on a regular basis. They work with their staff.
So they do that, you don't do that?
No, I don't do. I can
Okay, good.
assist. I assist and I assist.
Okay,
in
so
being
but you don't do that, but you will assist with
I will
doing that.
assist, and there are times when I see something or I read something or something comes to
And then you
to my
share the
and I
information.
share that information
But
with the various
your
chiefs.
department doesn't function at that level.
No, the chiefs have the ability to do just that. We support them, and if something comes out, new trends and so forth, because we go to various conferences and so forth, and there's some
And so,
things that come
Mr.
down,
Chairman,
so I get the
to
information to
the
them.
safety director, because, I'm trying to get straight and you trying to keep going. And if I just sit here, you would go and use up all my time.
I wouldn't do that.
I would be gone. You'd still be talking. And, Mr. Chairman, I love you, but I want to just get straight to it. So the Public Safety Administration more or less is just a process of assisting the chief of the police department. Is that correct? And then they make the fundamental decisions on where staffing levels should be, how best practices and policies, how that should fit within the system, and in terms of overall policing the city of Cleveland. But your department doesn't really fundamentally do that function.
To the chair, that's correct. The division heads are responsible for that. We assist, we talk through things, but ultimately they're going to do what they have. They're empowered to make those decisions.
So how many
That's why they're
division heads do make
4.
those decisions?
4. I have 4 division heads.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman.
Actually 5, because I have corrections. I don't want to.
You have a
I'm sorry.
corrections? Okay.
Yeah,
So those
corrections.
5 division heads makes those decisions.
To the chair, yes. After we have our conversations and so forth, that they implement certain things they implement on their own without talking to me, and other things, which are major things, we actually sit down, we talk through them before those decisions are made.
And of the people who are in your administration, the total number, how many of them are police officers with guns and badges that work for you?
Director?
How many guns and badges, police officers that fundamentally work in administration, that have guns and badges?
You're talking about in Division of Police itself?
In administration, in terms of the Public Safety Administration. your
All the
department.
officers within the Division of Police obviously are sworn, and they have firearms.
So you have 31 people, Mr. Chairman, that have...
No.
You got to clarify.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand how your administration...
You're talking about the
portion-
Public Safety Administration?
department you run.
Yes.
How many men and women have guns and badges?
None of my assistant directors, the only one that's sworn, well, I'm commissioned. through the Division of Police as well. So I maintain my commission through the Division of Police. But being armed on a regular basis, there's no one within my administration. However, let me qualify that. However, I do have a sergeant that's assigned to my office. Obviously, he's a police officer, he's sworn, so he has a weapon. I have actually two sergeants, Sergeant Pesta and Sergeant Lanton, and they're both
So you have
armed
two
as well.
people in your department? Mr. Chairman, you have two people, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that that are people who have badges and guns.
They're
That's it.
police officers, yes,
And
sir.
everybody else is administrative function.
That's correct.
See how easy that was? Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions? I have one, couple here. On separation payments, there's been a big dramatic increase in that. Is that due to the vacancies?
Through the chair to Councilman Plensing, no, that's just we budget for separations and so forth. That's as individuals retire or separate from division. If they have any time owed, we have to pay them out. So that's what that's due to.
But this is within your department,
Michael?
because I'm looking at, so Mr. Gelman explained. I see an increase, right now we're at 333% in separation payments over what we budgeted.
Through the director to the chair, that is correct. We're looking into that. We believe that that's possibly an error. Public Safety Administration, this is processed outside of Public Safety Administration. We believe that's from another department
Okay.
or another division. And it
So
was-
again, to our staff and through to you, we need clarification because we budgeted at your request 90,000 and now we're over 300,000.
Correct. What we do is we make an estimate at the beginning of the
Okay.
year about what we will
Okay.
anticipate, and then the actual comes in.
Okay, so you're going to clarify that for us. On the
Yes, sir.
area of utilities, again, substantially over in utilities, and explain that one to us. Electricity other, we're at October, we're at 133%. CPP, we're at 139% over the budgeted amount.
Through the chair to the director to the chair, that's correct. These these are estimates made at the beginning of the year. For the overall appropriation, we are $30,000. We have $30,000 remaining. If we need additional money from there, we will move that from other appropriations. We'll do a
Okay.
budget transfer.
Okay,
To
what about
accommodate that.
professional services? You're 200% over at this point.
That's correct. We were budgeted for $8,000. We have budgetary expenditures of $16,000.
And that,
Again, the overall appropriation is, we're still good under the 630 appropriation.
okay,
In hindsight, we could have moved some of those down to other contractual.
okay. Any other questions of the committee as it pertains to public safety admin? Any other questions? If not, we'll move on. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we'll have the Division of Police, Chief Todner Squad will,
Okay.
or staff will
Chief,
make
come
their
on
way
up to the table.
Mr. Chairman, one question.
Yes, Mr. President.
The safety director before
Yes.
her team is coming up.
Yes, sir.
We have other, and Mr. Gilman might be good for this if he could too. We have other agencies like the Canopy, the Domestic Violence Center, and some of these other places that have not had contracts executed. And I'm trying to understand who is our liaison with some of those ancillary organizations, like I forget their name, the not Step Forward, but the First Call for Help, or the people that deal with the other groups that are supportive outside of public safety, like Canopy, like Domestic Violence Center. Who handles all of those kind of things?
Director?
Through the chair, Councilman Griffin, I missed the first part of your question.
Okay.
I apologize.
Thank you. Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
We have groups like Canopy. We have groups like the group that you partner with for mental health services. We have other groups that are supportive groups that have contracts with the city, whether it's child abuse, whether it's Rosemary Creed, and I forget the name of her organization. Who handles
Frontline
those?
Services.
What is that?
Frontline service.
Frontline Services, thank you. And Canopy and some of those other ancillary services. Who handles those contracts? Is it Mr. Gelman, or who is the portion of public safety that handles those?
Through the chair, yeah, contracts generally go through the fiscal manager. That is correct, yes.
Do we have enough staff for that? Because I'm getting reports that there are several ARPA contracts and others that are like 9 months to a year behind, and that jeopardizes these organizations that are nonprofits that really need that cash flow. And I'm trying to understand if we just have enough resources to handle those kind of ancillary contracts.
To the chair, Councilman Griffin, Council President Griffin, that's a really good question, and we want to make sure that we're administering those grants and contracts in an efficient way. Michael Gelman, which is our fiscal manager, does an outstanding job. What we're doing here is bringing on a grant strategist who's going to help, our administrator, I'm sorry,
Great.
who's going to assist Michael and others to make sure that we, again, are processing those on a regular basis. But again, currently, fiscal manager Gelman is doing a really great job. Again, we just want to make sure we're even more efficient. So that's why we're bringing additional folks on to make sure, again, we're administering those grants and contracts in an efficient manner.
And just very simple, that's the reason I asked this question. And Mr. Gelman does do a great job, but sometimes when you're a great employee, the reward that you get in the city of Cleveland is more work. And what you need to make sure is that he has so I'm hearing you saying you're going to have a grant administrator that actually is going to be assisting Mr. Gelman that can help with those processes, because those folks call us and say, Blaine, we're going to mess around and not make payroll if we don't get these contracts out the door. And that's really becoming a problem. So I'm glad that you're looking at putting some more help for Mr. Gelman, because he does do a great job. But I hear his stack of papers or contracts has to be about this high. And I'm glad that you're going to get him some help as a grant administrator, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Division of Police. Chief, welcome to the table. Introduce yourself and your team.
Good morning, Safety Chair. I'm Dorothy Todd. I'm the Chief of Police, and I will let my team introduce themselves just for clarity. Deputy Chief Daniel Fay will be operating the PowerPoint today and going through the slides. So, go ahead and start.
Deputy Chief Jared Shalat. I'm the Chief of Staff for Chief Todd.
Deputy Chief Ali Pillow, Deputy Chief of Homeland Special Operations.
Deputy Chief Sammy Morris, Deputy Chief of Field Operations.
Deputy Chief Daniel Fay. I oversee administrative operations.
Okay. Chief, floor is yours.
So, good morning. As I stated, Deputy Chief Fay, he oversees administrative operations to include our budget unit, so he will be presenting the slides and will address any questions along the way.
Okay.
Jared Shalat.
Morning, everybody. We have a few slides. It's a quick overview of the Division of Police, where we stand today in 2024. Quick agenda. We have 5 agenda items. 1 is the mission statement. 2 is division operations. 3 is highlighted accomplishments. 4 is responsibilities and priorities. And then agenda number 5 is our staffing. The mission statement. This is something that is very important to us, to our men and women. Our mission is to serve as guardians of the Cleveland community. Guided by the Constitution, we shall enforce the law, maintain order, protect lives, property, and rights of the people. We should carry out our duties with reverence for human life and in partnership with members of the community through what our acronym is PRIDE: professionalism, respect, integrity, dedication, and excellence. And for those council members who have been fortunate to attend some of our academy instruction sessions, each morning our recruits chant that before they start the day. Division operations, just a quick overview. We have 3 operations that are main functions in order to deliver the services. Administrative operations, that's what I oversee. We provide the necessary support services that enable field ops and Homeland Special to function as effectively as possible. My job is to get what they need, period. Field operations, these are for the viewing public, the men and women you see in the zone cars for the most part. Field ops provides response to citizens' calls for assistance through uniform patrol activities in 5 districts and interacts with citizens via community programs. And field ops is overseen by Sammy Morris. And the third operation is Homeland Special Operations. It's composed of 3 main sections which provide a variety of investigative, technical, and preventive services along with establishing security initiatives. Some highlighted accomplishments for 2024 we're very proud of. Consent decree semi-annual report. There were no downgrades in that report. And there were upgrades in 5 specific areas which we're proud of. And that's kudos to our men and women and the PAT team, Dr. Anderson and her team. Expansion of Crisis Intervention Team Unit. We've added additional licensed clinicians have been hired for our co-responder teams, and we can get into that. Hiring of 5 crime analysts. So we hired analysts that are assigned to each police district, to your neighborhood district, and they work specifically in that district. Culture City's Sensory Inclusive First Responder Certification. What does that mean? So all members receive training to assist citizens with invisible disabilities and sensory needs. So a lot of times when our men and women go to calls for service, we're not really sure what the individual is in crisis with. So we have particular training to let our officers know that, hey, be sure that you recognize some invisible disabilities. And that was every member of the division went through that training. Police Academy classes and hiring event. We've increased in size of our academy classes, and we conducted a successful 3-day hiring event. So that hiring event, we had over 270 individuals that came to City Hall that were required to pass a test, a written exam, and then if they did that, they went to Public Hall or the Convention Center and did the physical component. So as a result of that event, we had 101 candidates that received conditional letters of hire. Phenomenal. And the focus of that, I'll be brief, is we discovered that we were losing a lot of candidates to other departments because of the time frame it took to hire people, to onboard employees. So this hiring event has been a game changer for us. We get the candidates in, we do a quick background, we do some testing with them, and they receive conditional letters of hire. So when they left that event in September, they knew that if they passed the last few steps, they were going to start the academy in December. They knew that. That's a game changer for us. That's a real paradigm shift for how we do things here. It's been very successful. We're going to continue that. And last but not least, Take Me Home program.
Point, Charlie?
It's a launch program to assist citizens with communication issues in emergency situations. So another tool in our officers' duty belt to address some of the needs of our citizens when we go to calls for service.
Before you proceed, Charlie, you had a question, Councilman?
No, I just wanted to put on the list.
Okay, you're on the list. Keep going then.
Okay. Responsibilities and priorities. We have 4 that we listed here. There's numerous, but these are the 4 top priorities for Chief Todd.
Excuse me a moment.
Yes.
I want to just revert back something to a point here you indicated. The hiring of the 5 crime analysis, are they all in place right now?
To the chair, yes, we have the 5 crime analysis.
Okay. So at some point, you're going to be able to tell us what data you can provide individual members of council, correct?
To the chair, yes. If there's a specific question you have or something, they can talk about crime trends. Currently, they have helped identify crime trends when we had the Save-A-Lock break-ins throughout the city.
Okay.
And they collaborate to bring the information from all 5 districts to establish those trends for the follow-up by the detectives and the officers.
So who do they report to?
So to the chair, currently they report through my office to Deputy Chief Schlott.
Okay.
But they also are collaborating with the commanders
And where are they physically located at?
in the Justice Center.
Okay. Okay, at some point, we would like to know who they are for each of the districts, and then at some point, give us be able to provide to us exactly the data that they're putting together for you, because I'm not aware of I'm not aware of any interaction with individual members of council, and I think this is a very important point. So we'll leave it at that, but we'll go back to that at some point. Okay, continue. Thank you.
So the next slide is responsibilities and priorities. These are just 4, but we have numerous, obviously. Number 1 is violent crime reduction and microgrid enforcement. We'll have a slide on that. Number 2 is our Crime Gun Intelligence Center. We'll expand on that a little bit. Number 3 is data-driven policing and our crime analysts, which we just discussed.
Okay.
And 4 is crisis intervention. So we have a slide on each. I'll just briefly elaborate. The number 1 priority for the Division of Police is violent crime reduction. So we're committed to addressing violent crime by using data-driven policing to conduct proactive investigations. And those investigations center around organized criminal enterprises, drug trafficking, gang networks, crime gun analysis, overdose deaths, fugitive apprehension, and warrant service. Our comprehensive violent crime reduction strategies are interwoven with field operations and Homeland Special.
Okay.
Just a brief slide on what we mean by microgrid enforcement. So microgrid enforcement is focused on concentrating police resources in small geographical areas. Some council members know these as hotspots. We've talked about that in the past. To mitigate persistent crime and calls for service. Persistent crime. Those hotspots in your wards, and you guys know them, you guys know them, where they are. We're concentrating our efforts on those hotspots. And how do we identify those hotspots? Through a comprehensive examination by our crime analysts and our detectives on reported crimes, calls for service, complaints, and crime patterns. And the neighborhood districts conduct focused patrols. That's a key word here, focused patrols. In the identified areas through quality of life enforcement, visibility, we want to make sure we're seen, community engagement, and then we follow up with our CPOP strategies. There has to be follow-up. Number 2, responsibility and priority, is our Crime Gun Intelligence Center, otherwise known as CJIC. CJIC works collectively with local jurisdictions, ATF, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office, and U.S. Attorney's Office. These partnerships are important because gun crime occurs in more than just Cleveland, we know that, and we use intelligence-driven data to learn these connections. And we utilize these partnerships with local and federal prosecutors to prosecute gun traffickers and shooters to the fullest extent. And CJIC is under the auspices of DC Pillow. Number 3, data-driven policing and our crime analysts. We talked a little bit about this, excuse me. Data-driven policing is an essential function within the Division of Police. We leverage data to enhance public safety. The onboarding of crime analysts, we talked about that in each neighborhood district, has harnessed that power of technology. We focused it. We've identified crime trends, and by doing that, we support investigations and create actionable intelligence. And our crime analysts empower the division to respond more proactively to criminal activity. And number 4 is crisis intervention. The goal of our crisis intervention efforts is to encourage and enhance responses to mental health crisis with the behavioral health system and to improve the safety of everyone involved during a law enforcement encounter. There's 2 specific components here we just want to address. The specialized crisis intervention team officers. These are voluntary, specially trained patrol officers who have demonstrated a desire and ability to work with people in crisis situations. So a lot of our officers have volunteered to be recognized as CIT officers. And then the second component, which is critically important, is co-responder teams. These are teams that include a specialized crisis intervention team trained officer and a behavioral health specialist. and they respond to incidents involving individuals experiencing a behavioral health crisis. So as of right now, we have 7 officers assigned to this and 8 clinicians. Our goal is to have 10 officers and 10 clinicians, and we're getting there. A really vital function for the Division of Police. They do a phenomenal job.
On that point, are you able to tell us how many times the clinicians have had to respond per district?
So to the chair, with the clinicians, they are more of a follow-up
Okay.
as opposed to the first responder to those calls for service.
So as it pertains to the first responder, do you have statistics to indicate how many times they've had to be accompany a police officer to respond?
So those are, would we have a call for someone in crisis?
Yes.
Those are dispatched to our normal zone cars, and they always take priority to have one of our officers who works patrol that is specialized CIT respond if they are available.
Okay.
The first responders would be your frontline zone cars.
So the actual, the individual we have assigned to the districts, I want to get to the clarification. So they're not responding. They are physically not responding with a zone car. They're not going out to the scene. They're
So-
not going out to the call.
So to the chair, you're talking about the co-responders?
Right.
They're not assigned to they don't work in the district. They're assigned to districts.
Okay.
But they are a specialized unit that works independently from, they don't work inside the district. What they do is they coordinate with the district personnel. If someone is in crisis
Yes.
and the officers are on scene, and the officers have mitigated the situation because we do have civilians who are with the officers.
Yes.
Sometimes they will come out to those scenes. A lot of what they do is proactive work and follow up for our crisis calls.
Okay.
So when we have an individual we receive multiple calls for, they follow up with those individuals.
Okay. So before Councilman Jones has a question as well. So do we know how many times they physically had to go to a scene with the officers? Do you know those?
So to the chair, we can get that
Yeah.
information for you.
Okay, thank you.
absolutely.
Councilman Jones. Chief, we'll ask Councilman Jones.
Mr. Chairman, to the
yes.
Chief, how many people did you say is a part of this crisis intervention units?
So our goal, through the chair to Councilmember Jones, our goal is to have 10.
Okay.
And with that 10, you would have 5 on day shift, 5 on afternoons, so 1 per district on each of those shifts. Currently, we have 7 officers and that are assigned, so we have coverage on both day and afternoon shift. But even though they're assigned to a particular district, they can respond to any of the 5 districts. We currently have 2 more clinicians that were just hired. So that's going to take us up to, because we currently only have 6 clinicians and we have 7 officers. We're moving up to 8. And so we're going to add, and we're going to have, 8 and 8 very, shortly in the next few weeks.
Well, let me just say this. I think we had a situation, I believe that this was a crisis intervention at one of our community meetings, and they did an outstanding job. Their level of patience and strategical, tactical, de-escalating verbiage and how they handled the situation was absolutely impressive. I believe that's the team that came there to us to deal with a very disturbing situation that had happened, and they did an excellent job. So, and they worked as a team of 2. So is that, yeah, so they did a wonderful job. So just want to put that 2 cents in there, Mr. Chairman,
Thank
to the chief, and I look forward to seeing that fully, beefed up.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, continue, Chief, and then I have Councilman Slife down on anyone else. Keep going.
Just
Somebody else had a question? Okay.
through the chair to the councilman.
Yes.
Just a quick stat. To your point at your meeting, we've had over 4,000 crisis intervention calls this year, 4,000. And we've only used force 13 times. That's 0.3% of the time we've used force in those highly volatile situations. That is a testament to the officers and what they do every day.
Thank you.
And that's an important stat.
Yes, it is.
And
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Wait,
would
go
they
ahead.
be responsible for like dealing with situations where, you know, you're trying to talk a person off of the cliff who may be a suspect already in a homicide?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's correct. Yes.
So
Okay,
through the
thank you.
chair to the council member, we also have our crisis negotiators, which is a separate team
Yeah.
that runs under Deputy Chief Pillow, who respond for suicidal situations like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
To
Okay.
the chair, if I can add in.
Yes.
They're also CI, they're specialized. They go through the 40 hours of specialized training as well. So
Okay.
those negotiators have that training as well.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
And to the chair, this is our last slide, the staffing level slide. So our sworn head count for 2024 is 1,350 officers, 206 civilian members, and 375 part-time members. And this is as of September 30th, so it's not necessarily accurate as of this moment. But on September 30th, it was 1,189 sworn members, 198 civilian, and 250 part-time. So the vacancies at this time were 161 sworn, 8 civilian, and 125 part-time. And those part-time, we have, I believe, 355 part-time positions for school crossing guards. And that's where the majority of our openings are.
That's where your vacancies are at?
Yeah, for part-time.
For
Yes.
part-time?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Now, I've got Councilman, you want to just go on the list or you had a point? Point, Councilman.
Through the chair to the table, what is the actual salary for school crossing guards? What's the pay?
Who can answer that?
Through the chair to the councilman, they receive health benefits, and I believe it's $20.50 a day.
Now, through the chair, is that a competitive pay to other crosswalk positions across Northeast Ohio or in the state?
Through the chair to the councilman, I don't have that data. That's something we can look
Okay,
at.
we will ask for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll ask staff to take that question down. Okay, let's go back to the staffing levels. We allocated in the 2024 budget to hire 1,350 police officers. Included in that was 181 new positions, new officers to be hired. Your full-time head count as of September, the 1,189, I'm assuming you've included the officers in the academy in that number, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, and that's how many as of today?
73.
73?
Affirmative.
Are you sure?
We have 3 academy classes right now. The 155th has
Yeah.
40. The 156 has 32, plus 1 fireman. And
Okay,
the 157 has 1.
So
That's our lateral
I'm
transfer.
talking police officer cadets. How many do you have today?
73.
72. Okay.
73.
73.
73.
Okay, because I keep getting different numbers when I
73.
request it.
So to the chair, we just had a new officer. That's why we have one now for the 157th class. He is an OPATA certified officer that has joined us. So he is going through an expedited academy training so that he can go out on the streets quicker and
Okay.
doesn't have to complete the full academy.
Okay, so minus the 73, how many sworn officers do we have today?
1,116.
Okay. Okay. How many have left since the first of the year?
I have that, Chief.
I think I have it right here. Does it have it?
To the chair, 98 have departed.
98 have left.
And to that point, for a little more information, so as of this time last year, we had 145 departures. So what we're seeing is a positive trend in the right direction on our departures and our retention.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Jones. Point.
We received information from a request last week that who will be eligible for retirement. And that number, what is that number that you have currently? I know we've been given a figure.
Do you have
I
it
do.
I have it somewhere.
based on
So-
years of service and age?
Yes, I have that. So through the chair to Councilmember Jones, we have 263 officers who are eligible for retirement.
Does that mean that they, Mr. Chairman, would retire this year, or that they're eligible to a certain period of time? How does that work?
So through the chair to the council member, they are eligible. It doesn't guarantee that they are
Yeah.
going to retire. They just they've met the qualifications to be eligible for retirement.
I see.
Okay. Okay. Let me get into some points here. Okay, we've lost 98. Okay, before I open it up for I have in list here, I have Councilman Slife, House Jones, Council President, anyone else on that list? Okay. With regard to the budget, at this point, you're 159% over your allotted overtime budget. We allocated $12,500,000 as requested, and I want to say this again, as requested by the finance director. We discussed this point at the table. The finance director indicated right here that $12,500,000 would be sufficient for police overtime in light of the 12-hour shifts. We are approximately right now almost $8 million over in the overtime budget, which will require a transfer ordinance by the end of the year. Chief, whoever wants to elaborate, we were told at the table with regard that the 12-hour shifts would positively impact overtime, and yet it hasn't.
So to the chair, as we talked about before, as of 2024, we are still well below where we were at 2023 for our overtime hours.
Okay.
We are not expecting to require a transfer ordinance because we are still under budget as a whole for the Division of Police. And with the 12-hour shifts, that's not where the majority of the overtime is coming from. The majority of the overtime we're seeing are for the special events, enforcement details, and the other operations that we're doing to address violent crime and these street takeovers that are based on the overtime. So in 2024, our overtime hours are at 343,716. And the same time for 2023, we were at 413,607. So that was for the.
Repeat that.
Sure. So this is the pay period ending
Yes.
October 13th.
Please repeat, Chief Slow.
So for 2024, we're at 343,716. The same pay period of 2023, we were at 413,607.
And you'll provide that to us in writing?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Okay. Couple other points here. On I'm assuming this is non-uniform overtime. You're at 116%. And what do you attribute that to?
So to the chair, when you talk about the non-uniform overtime, that
Yeah.
is what is outside of the normal patrol operations. Those are the enforcement details, those are court appearances, those are
Okay.
special events. Those are a culmination of all of those other things that are outside of, the operations of the patrol section.
Okay. And then let me see what else here. Professional dues, you're at 598% over from what we budgeted. What-
So I will let Deputy Chief Fay follow up on that request.
To the chair, professional dues, unfortunately, due to the cost of business, have increased this year, unknown to us when we went to council last year for the budget. That is the number one reason why that has increased significantly. So the professional dues include those services and commissions that the chief is on. For example, the International Association of Chiefs of Police,
Yes.
Major City Chiefs Conference. Those are critical for our awareness, and those are important entities that we have to be involved with.
But again, so it was just a miscalculation? You didn't envision charges or again, you're at 598% over what you had budgeted, what you came to us and what you requested.
Yeah, and to the chair, one of those particular entries is a miscoded entry in the
Okay,
financial
well,
system.
then you'll correct
And we're
it.
correcting that, yes.
Okay, you're going to correct it, okay.
On the point,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
what is the professional dues total cost, and what is it on an individual basis?
Through the chair of the council, could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, to the distinguished gentleman, what are the professional dues as relates to individual cost and then total overall cost of what it's costing the department?
Through the chair of the council, so we're budgeted for $10,000 this year, right? And those, what we anticipated was paying the International Association of Chiefs of Police, Major City Chiefs subscriptions, Survey Monkey subscription, Association of Firearm and Toolmakers Examiners, NAMI, mental health, and a few others. So we anticipated it to be 10,000, and we went over a little bit. But it's primarily the miscode is what's representing the overage on that.
Okay, well, you'll correct that for us.
Affirmative.
The last one, before I call up my colleagues, tuition and registration is up 370% from what you had asked us for the budget.
Yeah, to the chair. So these are registration fees for our officers and detectives and supervisors to attend training. The costs have significantly increased, particularly post-COVID. No longer can our members simply go online for some of the certification
Yes.
training. They are required to
Okay.
go out of state, out of town, and there's a cost involved with that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, those costs have increased. And that's
Okay.
post-COVID specific.
So the reason why I'm telling you this, because as we go into the budget for next year, you've got to come to us with more realistic figures. Because to see some of these increases, so again, I'm just giving you forewarning on that. I'm going to open up for questions at this point. I have Councilman Jones, and then Councilman Slife, Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones, and Council President.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to keep my comments brief. I just want to focus in on in this portion of it because we do spend a lot of money, and I don't want to belabor the point on some areas. But one of them is the number of police officers that work on our streets daily. I think that the distinguished gentleman, Mr. Chairman, Sammy Morris, would be your area. You're responsible for all street operations. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Deputy
To
Chief.
Mr. Morris.
To the chair, to the councilman, yes.
Okay. And so I think that your job is probably one of the most important jobs that there is. Not to take away from everyone else who's sitting here at the table, is because the people who are up under you are what the people see on a daily basis. And is that true, Mr. Chairman, to the director? I mean, to Mr. Morris?
Deputy Chief?
To the chair, to the councilman, yes. And we're all up under the chief, who's the most critical part of this operation.
Yeah, so don't put it on you all the way, right?
No, the chief is a critical part.
All right, Chief, we're going to bring you in too then.
Yes, sir.
So I guess the situation is what is important to me and what's important to the citizens, right? is visibility of our police officers. I get a lot of complaints in the neighborhood. I get a lot of complaints in other communities in terms of the lack of visibility of police. I happened to have the opportunity yesterday to try to do a little walking around, so I came downtown to just walk around and sort of exercise, and I saw an enormous amount of police officers in the downtown area. I saw sheriff cars, Coweta County Sheriff Department cars. I think I saw about maybe 8 or 9 of them in the downtown area. I saw several police cars, Cleveland police cars. So the visibility in the downtown area was just absolutely phenomenal. However, unfortunately, in my neighborhood, we don't get the opportunity to see that kind of level of visibility in our community, and I want to know why that is.
Whoever can answer.
So,
Take
through the chair
Chief?
to Council Member Jones, so downtown has the Downtown Services Unit, which is a different, it operates outside of the regular patrol officers you see. So there are a group of dedicated officers that are just assigned to the downtown area. So that's probably why you see, those particular officers patrolling in the downtown area.
Okay, so then how many police officers are downtown, patrolling the downtown area?
So I believe-
including the sheriff's department and your department, and then other special units, and I don't know, maybe some other people who are colleagues in other areas are coming downtown. So what is the contingency for downtown?
So, through the chair, I can't account for the sheriff's department, but for our members, our downtown services unit operates from 6 a.m. till 4 a.m. So there's 3 different shifts that they operate on 7 days a week. On average, they have approximately 7 officers that are on that shift. Sometimes there's more if the squads are overlapping, but that's normally about the deployment that you'll see.
patrol
And
cars?
sometimes it depends on if they're in a 2-man or 1-man. So you're always going to see a higher visibility if everyone was in a car by themselves. So if what you were seeing, if they were operating independently, you might see, what more vehicles that are out there.
Can we just request the information and know what the numbers are, unless you know, do you know it offhand?
For the
Mr.
downtowns.
Chairman, to the chief, yes.
Is for downtown or for the citywide?
For downtown.
I can get that for you.
Okay. And then if you could give me an idea of how many other units, specialty units, at one time I remember seeing the horse riders downtown. I saw the bicycle people downtown. I saw the patrol cars downtown. I saw the sheriff's departments downtown. I mean, I saw more police downtown, and this was at a time when we didn't have any kind of massive major events. So on a general level, I'd like to know just what that is, right? And then if we could shift over, because the request of information, Mr. Chairman, as relates to police who are working our streets on a daily basis, excluding downtown, on our day shift, it says 64. Is that, Mr. Chairman, 64 cars or just 64 people?
Chief?
So through the chair to Councilman Jones, so it's 64 people
Okay.
at the minimum.
How many cars, Mr. Chairman, is on the day shift, citywide?
Citywide. So through the chair, I did give an individual district breakdown. You just have to give me a minute to add it up. But if you want me to go district-wide, I can go over that with you real quick for each district.
Because see, what we have, Mr. Chairman, is what we asked for the information was a day shift citywide minimum of just patrol officers, excluding downtown, and it's 64. So, and then evening citywide minimum of just patrol officers is 75. I would have hoped that when I looked initially at the number, it would be 64 cars patrolling the citywide, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
So through the chair to Councilmember Jones, that's comprised of either the 2-man cars or the single response cars, which I did break down for you in in what we provided last week. But one of the things it doesn't account for are supervisors. It doesn't account for like our community services unit. This is just your frontline patrol car minimum that was provided on that. So each district has a different deployment plan. And when you talk about it, we talked about the first district, they have for their day shift operations, they have 5 two-person cars and 2 single response cars on their day shift. The second district has 6 two-person cars and 2 single response cars for their day shift. The third district has 5 and 2 as well. The fourth district has 6 and 2, and the fifth district has 5 and 2.
So what's that number? I have to calculate it, or can you put it together? If you
So
know.
on average, you have about 27 two-man cars, and you'd have 10 one-man cars
During the day shift?
during the day shift,
Citywide.
citywide.
Okay.
You're looking at 37 cars
Correct.
on the streets during the day. And what about at nighttime? Because we're on 2 shifts, right?
It's about 35 two-man cars, and about the same on the single response cars.
I see.
As the
Thank you, Chief.
And so you will be getting the numbers of how many police and other special units and everything like that will be downtown. Now, let me
So
ask.
just
Wait a minute, through the chair.
Through the chair, just a quick point of clarity. The only unit that's designated for downtown is downtown services. The rest of the support units, there's no one that's dedicated for just downtown patrols outside of the downtown services unit or the third district operations. So when you talk about the bike unit, we don't have a specific bike unit. The bike unit officers you see are members of the downtown services unit.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a general idea, Mr. Chairman, in terms of where our assets are at. And so knowing how many cars patrolling, how many partners that we have patrolling downtown, in addition to the police operation, that we're spending money on, or even spending, casino funds for downtown operations. What does all that consist of, and how many police officers are we talking about that's in that district? Because when we look at the citywide, 37 cars. So, we at University Circle that, has less than, 15,000 people, and they have 4 cars patrolling that small population. And that's per shift. And I think they're still on the 3 shift. I don't think they're on the shift systems that we're on. And we just approved it here at the table. And so, Mr. Chairman, to the Director of the Administration and to the Chief of the Police Department, our citizens are grieving to have more police out in the neighborhood. I think one of the things that is really devastating is, like the other day I was coming down my street and there was like maybe 35, 40 motorcycles coming up and down the street, very loud, and there was no one to stop them. And they went around the block several times. And we're getting calls, Mr. Chairman, from our residents who are just outraged because when they do come to the meetings, even though we have a great commander, I believe, they are disappointed, and they share with him that we don't see any police, and we're concerned about it. So when we look, Mr. Chairman, as I wrap it up, how can we improve this 37 cars on the street to maybe getting to 60 or 70 cars or 75 or 80 cars on the street? How do we begin the process to shift resources and getting more higher visibility on our streets? And that is our concern. I know it's my concern, and it's a concern for the citizens I represent, Mr. Chairman, and it's a concern also for the businesses that are in the district that we're trying to retain and keep.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Slave.
I defer to the council president.
He stepped out.
Never mind.
He'll be back.
All right. Thank you. So I'll just try to be quick because I have a number of things to go through. I think that the number one elephant in the room is just the staffing. And I'm interested, with the success of the hiring events, could you explain how the hiring events aligns with civil service? I think that we've felt that the civil service process across the entire city has affected our ability to hire into various positions, certainly in public safety and police. And I'm wondering if this is a model, if we know people aren't going to line up and take the test at public auditorium as they did, is this a model that we can replicate further across the entire city? And how much of this is an actual way to reform our own processes and to hopefully get these numbers up so that we can deal with more of the issues that are going to be kind of my following questions?
Now I'll have Daniel Fay, the deputy chief, address the hiring process.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman. So what we've done with the hiring event is truncated the timeline for onboarding employees, right? It's critically important. We were losing employees because our processes were too slow and they were taking jobs somewhere else. So we decided as a division to change that paradigm. So what we've done, we've truncated it. So in one day, I'll just read what a candidate will do. The candidate is probably, in the hiring event, probably 6 hours total. If they haven't done anything when they get to the door other than register. First and foremost, they'll complete an application. They'll do the NTN test, which is the written exam. If they pass that, it'll be the physical fitness assessment. Next is a warrant check, essentially. After that is a quick background questionnaire, investigative review, and then we schedule the medical and the psych for them. It's a very clean process. Now, for other departments or other members of the city, I'm not sure if there's a physical component. I don't believe. There may be, for example, a typing test for somebody. But to your question, can we replicate this? I believe so. Yeah, I really do.
So, Deputy Chief, through that process, thank you, and through the chair, are individuals placed on a civil service list, or do they just kind of circumvent and I don't mean that word in a negative way. I know that we are doing, instead of going through hiring rounds with police, we are hiring, every day of the year. So what I'm trying to get at to my colleagues is, as we've stumbled with civil service year over year, is this an opportunity to basically bypass the creation of a list and have people sitting on the list and having to refer people the names off of a list, or is there something happening in the background that people are still getting kind of placed on a list and immediately referred over?
Yeah, through the chair, Councilman, there's still a list. There's still civil service lists. We work directly with civil service on this project, and if I could just say publicly, kudos to them for stepping on board with what we wanted to do, what public safety wanted to do. They've been great partners, and so has HR. They've really stepped up with us and partnered with us. But yeah, to answer your question, there is a civil service test. Every quarter, there's a list that is established, and we grab it and we run with those lists. Does that make sense?
My final question on this, is it that there is if I'm not hiring through an event, you know what, I'm going to put a pin on this, come back to it later, because I worry that this could take up all of my time. But what I want, if people are able to get a conditional offer to become a police officer on the spot, I want to maximize that. But I also want to be able to give someone a conditional offer to be an electrician at the airport. Like, I don't understand why we are beholden to this archaic process that was designed over 100 years ago, and I think it's affecting us across the entire board. What I want to focus on more, to the chief, you had noted that 2024 overtime, despite being what we had budgeted, is still not as high as 2023 overtime. And then you'd spoken to what the majority of overtime is. Are there data on overtime requests that are being denied?
So through the chair to the council, Councilmember Slave, we do have, as far as if you're talking about denials, just, can you provide a little clarity?
Yeah, so what from conversations in this body, in the community, and in the presentation, let's just talk about the violent crime reduction team. A very laudable effort, and one that I want to double down on. And what we routinely hear is, despite the fact that we're short-staffed, it's not affecting our zone car plans. But our concern has been, okay, it might not be affecting our zone car plans, but is it taking people out of homicide? Is it taking people out of special task force and things, because we are needing to fill the zone car plan? And I've heard that's happening, particularly in the 4th District. Is that correct?
So through the chair to Councilmember Slave, yes. I was, after one of the safety briefings, I did have a follow-up conversation with the 4th District Commander, and he is, from my understanding, each detective, they weren't getting the staffing they needed to cover the shift, which is always a priority, so that each detective had to take one shift per week.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So my concern is just to pick on the 4th District, because if people are being pulled from VCRT work and being mandated into patrol, I would hope that they're being approved for overtime to be able to still accomplish the VCRT work. That is, like, I don't think that we're winning if we are pulling people from felony investigations to meet our zone car plan. And what I've heard is that, this is all, I admittedly hearsay, I don't have any data in front of me, but that requests to receive overtime to continue with felony investigations have not been approved. So while our if that were the case, if our 2024 overtime is below where 2023 overtime is, I guess my question is, should it be?
So through the chair to the Councilmember Slipe, I am not familiar with any complaints regarding any overtime denials. I will follow up with the district commanders on that subject, but this is the first I've heard a concern. I can tell you that we operate our violent crime reduction details and these follow-up investigations, and a significant amount of the overtime overage we have is related to these enforcement details. So if someone is getting denied overtime at the commander's level, I'm going to assume that there's a reason for the denial, and I don't think it has anything to do with not allowing them to fully investigate cases, but I will follow up with the district commanders.
Okay. And I bring this up, so the purpose of these meetings is for us to kind of understand how things are working so that we can make suggestions or be more fully informed in February when the budget comes before us. And I think the trick with police is, the main issue is that we know it's a staffing issue. But I guess the other side of the coin to that, and I'll say this to my colleagues, is over the past few years, we've been told that it is prudent to cut the headcount of Cleveland police simply because we know that there's only so many positioned or only so many cadets we can bring in on any given year. So we need to be somewhat realistic. But as we've also heard, there's not anticipated at this time to be any transfer ordinance because the vacancies are able to cover the amount of overtime. So what I want to understand is, is overtime not being approved because there's budgetary concerns that it could move us towards a transfer ordinance, and do we need to be thoughtful about cutting future positions and quote-unquote right-sizing if that money is needed in order to, for example, maintain our ability to do felony investigations?
Who would care to respond?
Through the chair to Councilmember Slipe, I can tell you that we will always be fiscally responsible when it comes to overtime, but I can tell you that we also have violent crime as a priority. So there is no I am not aware of any issues, or there's been no orders to say that you have to cut the overtime slow the services or slow the investigations. I can tell you that this is, I've never heard that. I don't know where that messaging is coming from, and it's never been a topic in the division.
Okay, it's something that I would like to explore further, and again, I think it comes back. This is zooming out from police across the entire city of Cleveland, government. Again, my idea of what I call the aspirational budget, of needing to understand what resources we really need to be able to plow all streets within 48 hours, have all, level 1 911 calls responded to within our own goals. And I think that we are constantly in this austerity mode of having to figure out, well, here's what we can do with what we have, but we still don't know what we would even need in order to do what we want to do. And I think that when it comes to police, I guess a question, there's the 100 some, I don't have the slide right in front of me, the number of vacancies. Are those vacancies able to be broken down by kind of rank and location within the division? So like if those were filled, and this will be my final question, and I'll get back on if I want, but if those positions were not vacant, where would they be placed? Would there be X number more zone patrol officers in the 4th district or the 1st district? Would we have X number more homicide detectives? Like what would we actually do with those positions? And I don't have a sense of what the answer is, and since I'm not, maybe it's out there and I just don't know it, but if in any case, I would want to have that information because that's going to speak to where our deficits are and help us understand where we are trying to now stretch a little bit further to make up for the vacancies where they exist in reality and not just as an aggregate number.
Thank you.
So if it's possible, comment if you could respond to whether or not that it's been parsed out to that level, and if
Who
it
can
has been,
respond?
I'd like to move towards being able to receive it.
So through the chair to Councilmember Slipe, I can tell you that as far as that's concerned, it would be all of the above. If we have the additional staffing, which we are working towards now, it would first start in patrol, and then it would expand out to all of our specialized units to, that is where the staffing would go. So as there's always, with more people, we can always do more. We are managing, we're being effective, but if we had the additional staffing, it would be for all of the above.
Okay.
We would have to increase the staffing. We would increase the staffing in each of those, in the patrol section, in our homicide unit, in our, sex crimes. It would be all of the above.
And
Director?
to the chief's point, to the chair, to the council member as well, as the chief stated, the obviously patrol section is priority, and then with increasing the numbers in the patrol section, also we have to make sure we have enough supervisors to manage them. Ideally, like to have 7 for 1 supervisor for 7 patrol officers at least in the patrol section. But as the chief stated, that's the priority, to make sure we have sufficient amount of officers in the patrol section. And of course, we have felony crimes and other crimes that need to be followed up on. So that's why we have to have sufficient amount of detectives as well, coupled with supervisors. So as chief said, it is all of the above, but the patrol section is the priority.
Okay, Councilman Jones, you had a point before I call our next colleague up.
I
What's your
want to
point?
just thank my colleague, Mr. Chairman, for bringing out the issue in the 4th District. It's that bad. We have so many 1 calls and 2 calls that it is overwhelming. I can't seem to get the police in certain ways to come because there's so many other priority calls. We're being overrun. It's just that's how bad it is. And it has been this way now for at least a good solid 15 years or more in the 4th District. And so, and that was one of the reasons, Mr. Chairman, you see me here talking at the table just about what the issues and concerns are. And I'm appreciative that I got this man down here, Mr. Sammy
Councilman.
Morrison, who had to come and deal with a number of issues that I had just to try to, deal with life quality issues.
I'll put you back on.
It's just that bad, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You don't need to put me back on.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie House-Jones. Okay, Mr. President, you're up next after.
Or good morning. Through the chair to the team here, good morning. So have a couple of questions in regards to, I know in the presentation you outlined responsibilities and priorities, outlining violent crime reduction, microcrime enforcement, crime gun intelligence center, the data-driven policing crime analyst, and crisis intervention. So with the responsibilities and priorities that you have outlined, can you go over what the actual goals will be connected to these responsibilities and priorities?
Absolutely. So through the chair to Councilwoman House-Jones, I'm going to start a little bit, but I'm going to let the teams who specialize in it really talk more about those. So our violent crime reduction, as we know, violent crime reduction is a priority for the Division of Police in the city of Cleveland. We have, throughout the summer and the last summer, we've had initiatives to address violent crimes in the neighborhood hotspot areas and throughout the city. And we just want to let the community know that just because the summer's over, that enforcement isn't over. And we're going to continue that violent crime enforcement throughout the year. to make sure it's always a priority. And we're constantly looking at those microgrids. We're using the what our data analysts tell us they're seeing the crime trends in, and we're trying to focus our efforts in each of those areas. And as far as the crime gun intelligence, I'm going to let Deputy Chief Ali Pillow speak on that.
Good morning. Through the chair to the councilwoman. Ma'am, the Gun Crime Intelligence Center, the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, our main focus is to link weapons used in violent crimes to individuals, locations, and to help solve those crimes and prevent other crimes. To identify the individuals causing those crimes, to locate those guns and figure out where those weapons are being obtained from and how they're being obtained. And again, that's why it's called Crime Gun. We're just not looking to take guns, but guns specifically used in violent crime. And also to enhance our relationship with our partners across the city, across the state. Partnership is a key component of the CEDRIC, working with the suburbs. We talked earlier about crime not knowing boundaries, the crimes that occur in Lakewood, East Cleveland, Euclid, furthering those partnerships so that when crime occurs, we have the resources of all these law enforcement entities to be focused on those individuals and those crimes.
I want to interject. So I'm going to offer a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is just to all of them, so through the chair to the team here. So when I was asking about goals, I was specifically thinking through when you think about SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So again, understanding where are we going, right? We are trying to reduce X, whatever that is. I know that's what I'm trying to get to, actual numbers and things that we can look at ourselves from one year to the next so that we can actually start charting our progress one way or the other, because we have so much invested in our general operating budget, focusing in on police. And I'm just really trying to understand where are we going in all of these things that we are putting out there. Because again, I believe that we need to paint the real picture of where we are going. You know, we hear about staffing, and that's again, where are we going with the responsibilities and priorities that the Division of Police have laid out? That's what I'm asking.
Understood. So through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones, as we know, in 2024, policing has changed. And policing is not just about you receive a call for service and you respond, or you're conducting some type of surveillance and you address those crimes. A lot of what we do nowadays is related to data. It's related to the resources we have from our analysts who are, researching data, the crime trends. So a lot of the things is proactive measures that we're taking. The crime analysts, it's new to the division this year, and the Crime Gun Intelligence Center being here in Cleveland is also new. So right now we're setting that first layer of how we're looking at it, what improvements we see as compared to years past. Have we, have these things created better outcomes on addressing the violent crime and where we're going in the future? So there's a lot of resources out there. Policing is just not about, patrolling and answering the calls for service. It's about seeing the trends that are out there, getting the information from the community, and addressing it in numerous different ways, which includes, these investigative tools that we're using. So we're working on,
So again, I think this is an area through the chair to the team. I really feel like there is an area where we need to have very clear, explicit goals that we are working to achieve. Because again, how you run a race and you don't know where you're going. And that should be in all the different departments. If we're, even with data, what is the purpose of getting the data? To do what? For what? In time, are we trying to improve in time efficiency and response time? Are we trying to analyze reports in a certain amount of time. Like, all of these things should have very specific goals and frames, even if it's, again, trying to increase team member morale, like all these different things. Are we trying to increase the longevity of our officers? Are we trying to I mean, you have there again, and I'm saying this, and again, I will just say, be very clear for the administration. In all the things that we do, we need to start having some goals, right? Like, very, very explicit. Every department where, again, year after year, we in council, when we talk about oversight, it's very hard at times, and I will say even in my mind, as a process person, to even, and sometimes even know what to evaluate, because we haven't set very clear directions of what we're actually measuring. We're doing a lot of stuff, but.
To the chair, to the council member, very good questions. I appreciate the questions. I can tell you that with the Division of Police and all the divisions, there are specific goals. They are. And we take the data that we have, we analyze the data. That's why the Division of Police in particular, have the 5 analysts and so forth, analyze the data. What we do, again, in all the divisions, is look at the data. And let's talk about the Division of Police in particular. We have crime stats that come out every 2 weeks. We have that through our crime analysis unit. We know over the last several years what the crime rates are for, or the numbers relative to false assaults, for example, stolen vehicles, homicides, burglaries, and all that. Our response times were code 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. All those type of things we know. So our goal is to make sure that, again, if it's going in a negative trend, is to get even lower than that. For example, if we had 30% in stolen vehicles for 2023, our expectation in 2024 is to push those numbers further down. Percentage-wise, we can't tell you, but we want to push those numbers down. And how do we do that? We do that through our enforcement efforts and working with our partners and so forth, and I can continue with all those. So yes, there are specific goals. In the Division of Fire, there are specific goals to push certain things, to have certain amount of inspections done, and so forth. So I can tell you that through the divisions, there are specific goals that we measure each year.
Chief, you want to respond?
Real quick, through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones. I mean, I think everyone knows with police, our goal is addressing violent crime. So we measure we measure everything daily on how we're looking with reducing violent crime. And when we look at that, we look at our Part 1 crimes, which are, your homicides, your robberies, your burglaries, rapes, everything that goes down. And I can tell you for 2024, our numbers are good, and that's how we know if we are being successful is, we're making sure we're continuing to reduce violent crime.
Okay, and then I'll just go into through the chair to the team. The last question is regarding crisis intervention. You talked about currently, clarification, is the goal in 2025 to get to 10 crisis intervention training officers and 10 clinicians? Is that what I heard, or is that the goal for 2025?
Chief?
So through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones, yes, so it's the team of co-responders. So that, which is we're currently have 6, and we're going to move to 10. We have 2 more that are additional hires. So yes, 10. And that's going to be 2 per district.
And then just to follow up from there through the chair to the team.
Yes.
With those teams, is that reflected in the budget? Like, can you talk specifically about the plan from the division focusing in on our co-responder model? Is that what's the vision as far as funding? Is it to go into funding it from our local general revenue fund, or is it, again, searching for grants to pay for this?
Chief or Director?
So through the chair, I'll let Deputy Chief talk a little bit about that, but this is something that we want to carry permanently. This is something we have found to be extremely successful, and we have implemented this as part of the consent decree. And we've had great success, great progress, and great reviews as a result of our co-responders team. But if Deputy Chief Fay can talk about the budgeted for the co-responders team.
Deputy Chief.
To the chair, to the council member, we want to make sure that this is institutionalized and memorialized in our general fund. This is not, as you know, sometimes grant funding depletes and the program dies, right? This program cannot go away. So we want to memorialize it in the Division of Police. So if there's some grant funding available, yes, maybe for the licensed clinicians, definitely keep them employed, because they're not employed by us, they're employed by the Adams Board. But to your question, yes, this is going to be a long-term strategic plan for us. And for this team, it's not going anywhere.
Thank you.
All right, so again, through the chair, I appreciate you all to hear that. It is very assuring to hear that it is the thought and the commitment of the Division of Police to memorialize it and make it the way that we do business here in the city of Cleveland. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Lady. Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize if I missed this, but is there somewhere that I can see the staffing chart of, I think I have it, the full-time staffing for the entire division? Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, no, that's the one I'm looking for.
For all division, for all sections?
Yeah. Oops. Yeah, I'm actually looking for, what I'm trying to find is all of the, who's the field ops, how the detectives are breaking down, all of that. Do we have any of that information? Do we have it broken down like by the different categories? How many we have in field operations? How many we have in the SWAT unit? How many we have in special victims crimes units?
Director.
Where is that at?
To the chair, Councilman Griffin, we have that number broken down. It's not in the presentation, but we can get that information to you. We can also answer some questions specifically if you're asking who's in, how many officers are assigned to a specific unit. We can provide that information.
Okay, and that would be helpful to know how many officers are assigned to each unit. I would have loved to have had that today, because here's where I'm going with this. I think the solve rate is great. I think that, Deputy Chief Pillow and his team have always done a wonderful job. I've been working with them over 20 years to really deal with the homicide rates and everything else. I think our problem with policing this year has been basic patrol and nuisance crime. Street takeovers and basic patrol, traffic units, and that blocking and tackling with the police department is, quite frankly, where I think the challenges have been at this year. So it would be good to see the specialized units and also the regular patrol units so that we could see where and if and how it operates. I've really been asking for this, Mr. Chair, for quite some time, and I think it will be very helpful for the safety director and the chief if we could ever just one day have council come over and do a field trip for, I call it tabletop exercise, to kind of understand how things go. Because if I hear Councilman Jones tell me he got a solution one more time about making sure he deploys assets, and I can't tell him why he's wrong, because I haven't seen the operation. And that's something that I think all of us would love to see. So then we could actually see how you deploy and how you make decisions to make adjustments. Because we know now, and I appreciate the chief's candor through the chair to correct her statement at the table a few weeks ago when she said that detectives weren't being pulled off duty to be put on basic patrol, and come to find out that that was the case. I want to understand the basic patrol, because if we're pulling people from specialized units to put in basic patrol, why do we, that's kind of one of the questions that I'm really trying to understand. But it'd be good to see those numbers so that we could see the deployment. To Councilman Jones' credit, I want to understand how you're deploying in each area and how you're actually saturating areas, because I can tell you this summer has probably been the most challenging, not because of the gut-wrenching homicides, but because of the out-of-control nuisance behavior, street shutdowns, and not just the ones we see in the news, but the ones that happen every week on every street in every neighborhood, in Buckeye Plaza, everywhere else. And I want to understand, how do we have enough bodies on basic patrol to deal with those things so that our officers are not in jeopardy when they're actually deploying to some of these tough situations where there's hundreds of people doing illegal activity, but we still are required to do something about it. So, Chair,
Yes.
whatever they can address with that, I just really want to understand that.
We will, and again, we're going to request that, and I'll give you forewarning going into the budget hearings. These are issues that we're going to be looking at because it's not only, as the council president indicated, growing concerns in the neighborhoods about visibility, response, but also once there is a response about this reoccurring theme that officers are told to disengage or not engage or to sit on the sidelines. That's become a great concern. And when you watch it on a nightly TV show, news report, and you see police officers, when they do respond, are on the perimeter and are not engaging, that only infuriates the residents. I can tell you that. In downtown businesses who I've received many calls from, expressing their concerns and outrage. So, Chief, would you care to respond?
So through the chair to the council president, I don't have exactly what you're asking for, but I have a little bit of what you're asking for. So when we talk about our specialized units, so when you look at our staffing numbers and you talk about that 1,100 number that we were just talking about, so of those, there's 447 members that are assigned outside of a patrol district. So that would include your homicide unit, sex crimes, your crime scene, your task force, all of the, your traffic units. So there's 447 officers that are assigned outside of patrol operations. And then when you look at your patrol, your district personnel, so there are 243 of the members cross citywide that work inside of a district that are not in the patrol section. So when we talk about, and again, my apologies to you, I didn't have the information that the 4th District was pulling from their violent crime detectives to address the calls for service. When he was deploying his personnel, he was using 4th District personnel. He wasn't deploying from the homicide unit or any other, he was deploying from his 4th District personnel to cover the shortages that were occurring in the 4th District. So when we look at that, how we deploy, and a district is comprised of our patrol section, your detectives, your vice, your community services unit, your community engagement officers. So when you have a commander who is trying to fill his car plan to make sure the calls for service are met, he's pulling from that support section in his district, is what happened in that particular case. So I hope that breakdown helped a little bit but we can get into the more specifics for you with each individual unit. And as far the takeovers, since we had that event in September, we have had every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday since. We've had a team of officers with a supervisor and a commander out there every single night. They, as you stated, just because those takeovers where you saw that activity downtown stopped, what we're seeing on the private properties, your Lee Harvard, the Roses, Enterprise Parkway, continues every single weekend. And they have been going out there. They've been out there every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, writing tickets, towing vehicles, and going to every vehicle takeover, every call for service related to the any large gatherings with motorcycles or ATVs. Every weekend, we've dedicated a team of officers with a commander to go out every Friday and Saturday night.
If I can piggyback on
Yes,
that, I
Director.
appreciate the chief doing that, but it's important to understand too, to the chair, to Councilman Griffin, that's on overtime. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, that the details are on overtime. That's on detail, and coupled with that, those are individuals that volunteer for that overtime. So we talked about the overages and overtime. That's part of the overages is based on us being proactive, to your point, to make sure that we respond accordingly in a proactive way to some of these things that are taking place.
Thank you. It'd be good to get that information. I will tell you that, my problem this summer has been not the gut-wrenching homicides, those issues. I emailed all of you this week. East 130th between Buckeye and Drexmore looked like New Jack City. It was the first time that I've seen in a long time, other than a couple of other hotspots across the city, that was almost completely out of control. Prostitution, behind dumpsters at Family Dollar. And to me, we need about 20 people to just go up and down that street and just wreak havoc. And I know you guys know policing better than I do, but it would take force. And one of the things that I think about the street takeovers that I'm also concerned about, Deputy Chief Morris's officers. The reason that I think that they don't oftentimes engage is because if we only got 5 cars and it's 200 cars out there and probably 500 people, how do you manage that with 5 or so cars? It's not safe for the officers. So we want to understand the body count that we have in order to meet that force whenever it happens, so that we could better understand how we need to make decisions around fiscal. Chair, the other thing I want to make sure we do is furlough and sick time. And since my time is up, because I want to abide by the time, furlough and sick time, I would love to get that information out of the active members that we have, out of the 1,116 people. How much furlough and sick time have we used? Because a lot of times we have shortages and people are held over if they're sick time or furlough, and really try to be able to look at that information. And then I think this is more of a safety director, but at some point in time, I would like to see how and if the Real-Time Crime Center and the Fusion Center is fully staffed. Because if the Real-Time Crime Center is fully staffed and the Fusion Center is fully staffed, then we pick up on issues like street takeovers, because those are the folks that are the eagles in the sky, being able to pick off those kind of issues. So if I can get furlough and sick time, and then also look at Real-Time Crime Center and Fusion and see how it's staffed. And Mr. Chair, I would like if this committee would be able to, or this council would be able to get taken to the police department so that we could at least have an understanding of how deployment operates. So then that way we can wrap our head around the deployment strategies, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
And I was going to say just as well, to follow up on your part of your questioning, that took place. The chief indicated, it was either the chief or someone else, that the special events was the bulk of the uniform overtime. But we also quoted special events as one of the reasons for the ununiformed overtime. Why the discrepancy?
I'm sorry.
Again, you indicated that the reason for the substantial amount of overtime was because of special events, but then there's the ununiformed overtime for special events. Why? For what? Tell me why. Well, what's that for?
So, to the chair, I'm not sure what you're looking at. So there's, when you're talking about the uniform overtime, and then I just want to make sure I understand the question that you're asking.
Well, you indicated that the reason for the substantial increase in overtime was for special events.
Well, it's the special events, which includes these violent crime enforcement details.
Okay.
It includes the crime reduction details. It includes the traffic initiatives. It includes follow-up on investigations.
Okay.
And then the special events that happen throughout the city.
And so then for the ununiformed overtime, why the increase?
So to the chair, that's our SWAT unit, the call-up. The task force officers, a lot of that is also reimbursable overtime. When you look at that, I don't know if that number is accounted for in there with the reimbursable portion.
No.
So we'll make sure Deputy Chief Fay gets you the reimbursable overtime information as well.
Thank you. Okay, Councilman Starr.
To the chair, just
Yes,
To the council.
Deputy
people, I
Chief.
just wanted to mention, we were talking about the takeovers. One of the things we learned from these takeovers is that Lee Harbor Plaza, I was working with Councilman Jones, they don't have anything to stop the cars from spinning. Before, they would have shopping cart stops, parking stops. If these things were in there, or planters, anything to take up some of that space, we're noticing that a lot of these areas are, especially the ones on private property, because there's nothing there. Before, they would have bump stops.
Yes.
Cart returns, parking, the old school concrete parking stops where you wouldn't bump into the car in front of you. And if these things were in place at these locations, the cars wouldn't be able to do what they do. We're working with several locations. One was the Lee Harbor Plaza that we're working with to install some things there. I had a meeting with the councilman. He stepped out in
Yes. Okay.
Plaza about that. Also, we're looking at other things such as street milling to stop the cars from spinning at intersections.
Okay.
So we're learning a lot from.
So I would hope, based on Deputy Chief Morris's comments, that you would be making suggestions to city planning, because they have to approve parking lot designs, and whether it be through a Board of Zoning Appeals or through city planning in general, because if you'll notice in most suburban lots, they have landscape islands. They don't have just this sea of asphalt. They have trees, they have tree wells, they have other amenities that break up that massive amount of asphalt. So as we go forward, maybe that's a strong suggestion, public safety to city planning, that we need to rethink parking lot designs in this city.
To the chair, that's part of that is part of it.
Right.
We are in partnership, because it is an all-government approach. It's just not division of police. It's
Good.
all of government
Thank
approach.
you. Councilman Starr.
No, definitely. Thank you, Chairman Polensek, for this conversation, but I just want to make sure I got some context related to what has been spent so far in the division of under Public Safety Department for the Division of Police. So so far for the date of this year, how much money have been spent for the budget related to the police division?
Who can
Deputy
answer
Chief
that?
A.
Who can answer that?
Deputy Chief A.
Deputy Chief A.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, give me 1 second.
That would be the total, you're asking for the total amount.
Yeah, the total amount that we spent with,
Based on the budget.
based on the budget.
Okay.
Through the chair to the councilman,
Yes.
our grand total expenditure is $174,291,909.
That's to date?
Yeah, it's about 7 days old. That's the most
Okay,
current. Yeah.
okay.
And if I could just make a point here, so that's 73% of what we're budgeted for, okay?
Okay.
And we're supposed to be at 80%. So we are fiscally responsible right now, and I think that's important to state here. There's talk about transfer ordinances,
Yes.
and we're out of whack with our budget. We're not. The Division of Police is fiscally responsible right now.
Well, you are.
And we have
because
been
you
for the
are.
last number of years. There hasn't been a transfer ordinance
Yeah.
from the Division of Police in a number of years, and that's important to state. Now, I know your comment's going to be overtime, and I agree with that.
Yes.
We are over our budget in overtime, yes. But overall, the Division of Police is fiscally responsible.
But you are, in all due fairness, is because you haven't hired 181 officers that we allocated.
That's one item of it, yeah.
That's the
It's more of a
biggest item.
complex calculation,
Yeah.
but I agree.
Yeah, thank you. Councilman Starr.
Okay, and through that point, so we're budgeted for how many total for the police division?
To the chair, to Councilman Starr, 1,350 sworn.
Not officers, I'm talking about the total, as far as the
budget.
Not officers. How much, we said we spent right now $174 million. And for
Deputy
this
Chief A.
budget, we put how much towards that? Because I know you said 33% down.
Through the chair to the councilperson, so For sworn members, it's $1,350, $1,350.
Our total budget,
Total.
police.
Is that it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Total budget, yeah.
To the chair, through the chair to Councilman
Over
Starks,
here.
we're budgeted for $230,920,748.
And you said $230,920,748.
$748.
And we're 73% down from that spent total today. But then when you talk about the overtime, how much have we spent in overtime through the chair?
To the chair to the councilman. So far, we've spent $21,021,723. $21,021,723.
Okay, and then through our budgeting process, when it relates to the overall $230 million, when you spend overtime, does that come out of the same $230 million budget?
Yes.
Or do we have a separate budget that allows us to have overtime?
So through the chair to the councilperson, so there, in our budget, there's approximately 75 line items. One line item is for overtime. That makes sense.
So it's a part of the overall.
So that 21 million for overtime is a part of the line item of the $230 million?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
to the chair. Yes.
So basically, essentially, is that $174 million included the 21 million when you say you're down percentage? So right now it says we spent $174 million in policing. And then I'm asking within that total, does that also contribute to the addition of $21 million too?
To the chair to the
Included?
councilman, yes.
All right, just want to make sure that. And then, so is it safe to say, based on our projected numbers as of today, which is October 23rd, we were possibly be under budget related to the division of police through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilperson, yeah, that's our goal, to be under, yes.
To be under.
To be fiscally responsible.
All right, and with being physically responsible, is that a direct correlation to not being able to hire additional officers through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilperson, that is one item, yes, that contributes to us being under. Yes, the uniform personnel budgeted line.
So hypothetically, if we were able to hire the additional 180 officers that were budgeted for to this year, would we still be physically responsible as far as our budget?
To the chair to the councilperson, I would have to calculate that, but my guess is we'd be real close.
Real close.
And through the chair to Councilmember Starr, if we had the 180, our overtime numbers would be down.
So it'll balance itself out more
Yes,
than
sir.
likely. Okay, so therefore, through the chair, based on some of the numbers that we've heard today, we're saying that in order for us to run our police department under public safety, we would definitely need $230 million at minimum. Through the chair?
Through the chair to Councilmember Starr, that's correct.
Okay.
To the chair, to Councilman Stark, that's correct, but I was corrected in my numbers that I was looking at. I was looking at the wrong line for our total expenditure for the Division of Police. It's actually, and I apologize for that, it's actually, numbers are pretty small. Bear with me here as I try to focus my eyes in on these numbers. 236,480,747. And I'll repeat that again. It's 236,480,747. That's the total budget for 2024. I apologize for the previous number. I was looking at the wrong line.
Oh, no problem. So that's additional $6 more million. Okay. The reason why I'm asking these questions and wanted to definitely just get a complete understanding of the budget is yesterday after we left here from committee, I got a call that there was a shooting take place at East Tech. And within the last week and a half, there's been a lot going on at our schools, in particular East Tech, and everyone at this table and everyone knows I am alumni of East Tech. I am one who's still involved in what's going on at East Tech. I talk to the principals, I talk to the students, I talk to teachers, faculty, anyone, just to see a sense of what's going on in the neighborhood. And when I got there, they had a young man down who had a gun. Now, what I also experienced was it was adults who came up to the school who were looking to do whatever, get into an altercation, he say, she say stuff, which led to a fight. Then, as you know, shots and rounds got off. So therefore, I then started looking at Cleveland Metropolitan School District to see what do they have in place. And I found out that they have only one patrol car unit. One patrol car unit. Now, I'm talking about this because this is Cleveland. I know we're not the county because the county quick to try to say Cleveland is a part of Cleveland, the county when it's beneficial, but when we need their health and human elements, services, and support, they try to act like Cleveland got everything on their own as if we're not a part of the county. So that's a whole nother subject. But what I've noticed is from some studies that I've seen have been done the last 3 to 4 years where kids have expressed they're not safe in their schools. So just for on the record, I'm going to send some communication to our dean, our chairman, Polenzik, as well as Councilwoman Santana, who's in charge, and the chairwoman of workforce, where public safety, division of police, CMSD police, our preventers organization, community relations, Chief Sonia Pryor-Jones department, as well as Cleveland Foundation, to anyone that has received any dollars from preventative measures to get to the table for us to figure out a solution. Because what's going on is everybody's doing their own thing. Everybody is trying to figure out how can we live for today, but not also thinking about what is actually going on. And it's sad to me because last night I got the calls to find out a little bit more about what was going on. And when you think about it, these are kids who possibly graduated from our school, and I'll wrap up, Chairman. There's kids that possibly went to our school, no longer in our school, now they're adults, and they still getting involved in the same stuff that's going on in high school. But what makes me think, like, when I graduated from high school in 07, I don't remember being as actively involved in my high school until I was close to 28, 29, coming back home, getting into the community. But a lot of our kids are graduating with nothing, without nothing. So therefore, they're going to be inside of this stuff. So yes, I think we need to come up with a system to really help our kids. They're crying out. You can't tell me that the kids just want to keep doing all this shooting and shooting. But also, we need to address these parents. These parents need to be able to get some parenting class, some accountability. This saying, oh, I just can't control me out wild, or I'm doing this all by my own. My mama raised 6 kids by herself. And at the end of the day, we need to put things in place to help people, help people, help people. And I don't think we're doing a great job overall as a collective unit. Yes, we have certain departments. Yes, we have certain divisions that do good things. But as a collective unit, this can't be it. We cannot be dealing with kids getting shot at or shooting at each other, or I just recently graduated it from this school, so I'm gonna be coming up getting involved in the little kids. What about the actual program? And if we don't understand that by 2032, based on the trajectory, these trade initiatives, if we don't have a pipeline in place, we're going to be out of those jobs, and those jobs are no longer going to exist. So what I'm just saying from a public safety standpoint, we need all hands on deck. But we also need to be proactive and preventative, because I got a dream that I do not want to live, that if we have something like that took place at East Tech, where we had a fire arson on Saturday, where we had on Thursday the football teams and them get into a fight, then we had on this past Friday where some parents was trying to fight cheerleaders, and led to them getting into the field where the game had to be stopped, to now a gun incident within 1.5, 2 weeks time period. I'm not even gonna talk about the fact that roads, they had somebody get stabbed and get poked up. We had incidents at John Marshall as well. We're not gonna talk about a year or two ago where we had a kid get killed at the bus station at John Adams. We're not going to even talk about how Kennedy just had a riot too yesterday. And then you talk about Cleveland Metropolitan School District only got 1 patrol unit. I mean, I'm just going to be open. When I was in school in 2007, 2003,
Our safety and security team, they didn't play. I was at the game Thursday. I seen parents storming the field, acting like they wanted to jump on a coach, acting like they wanted to jump on players, and nobody was arrested. CMHA was there. Cleveland Division of Police was there. Nobody was restrained. So guess what? We broke it up. Now they live to see another day to do it again. I mean, I'm not saying we got to police ourselves out of this, but there should be some accountability held. And also, I witnessed when the fight with Kennedy and East Tech, a parent come out the stands and break this player's leg, got his leg broke because the parent jumped on him. I witnessed it. And that parent ain't been held accountable. So it's like we got a mess on our hands, and it's going to take leadership, it's going to take partnerships, and it's going to take an actual plan to get this figured out. So definitely, I will be sending out a letter, Chair, to you,
Yes.
as well as Councilwoman. Just wanted to make sure I gave you a heads up
Okay.
earlier,
Thank
but
you.
definitely just want to let you know we got our work cut out for us.
Okay, when I receive that, I will talk to Councilwoman Santana. We'll try to coordinate with the Division of Police, with CMSD, with Sonia Pryor-Jones' shop, CRB, see if we can bring all the players to the table to figure this one out. All of us are greatly concerned, and all of us keep asking so often that the funds that we have allocated, that CMSD does have, how are they being adequately utilized? I think we all have a lot of questions about CMSD, growing concerns. Councilman alluded to it. So again, we'll coordinate that.
Mr. Chair, on that point, just on that point, if I could.
Yes, Mr.
Just on
President.
that point, I would like to make sure that Councilman Starr has accessibility, and maybe you might want to bring to the table, there's a coalition of all of those different players, from
That's right.
CMSD, Cleveland Division of Police, the different social service agencies that meet in the Mayor's Red Room once a month. I would strongly recommend to talk to Chief Sonia Pryor-Jones to see how you can bring that coalition with all of those players, to Councilman Starr's point, to the committee table to have that cross-sector conversation about that. I do in our ward a meeting about once every 2 or 3 months with RTA and all of those same players, and it does help where we can share information and all of those things.
Thank you. And it's, again, we'll look for information. I'm going to say this to the Safety Director. We're going to look for information from the administration about putting together, on your side of the hall, all the participants that we need to have involved in this process. So that would be Chief Sonia Pryor-Jones, CRB. Again, we funded the Cleveland Foundation for violence interrupters. We have funded other groups for violent interruption as well. We'll all keep asking the same question. We're not seeing the coordinated effort, or maybe people are operating in their own silos. So we've got issues. Councilman Jones, you had a point.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one of the things is John F. Kennedy, we looked at the staffing levels, the car plans,
Yes.
and they're not, they're nowhere near where they should be for population sizes of 113,000 people to have only patrolling 6 cars. And so, Mr. Chairman, what's the real big problem for us in our area is John F. Kennedy, and I appreciate my colleague Richard Starr. I love his passion, his fire, and his youth coming to the table, challenging to how do we change the conditions in our neighborhood. We have, at any given time, Mr. Chairman, this is for the last several years since the opening of the new John F. Kennedy, 25, 30 young people fighting. And we have, Mr. Chairman, even the adults coming and fighting the children up at the school. And these organizations that you're talking about, that, because that was an issue, go and see Sonia Pryor-Jones. And those groups are overwhelmed. I even get texts from them. They can't handle it, nor do they have the firearms or the guns. They need the police help. And so when they're out there on that scene, they can't break up all of these fights. So it's like we're really in a pickle. And then we do have some police officers' cars out there, and I'm thankful to the commander because there were a couple of cars out there and these about 30-some fights going on, but the police officers unfortunately stayed in the car. They were not on the outside of the car. They were just watching what was going on. And then that group, Mr. Chairman, called me up and told me about what was happening. I called the commander, Ralph Valentino. He then called over to him, why aren't you outside your car? Why aren't you engaging in this process? And so they did get out of their cars. They did start using their horns or their bullhorns or their sirens to help break that stuff up. But this is the situation, Mr. Chairman, to the chief that we're dealing with. And then, Mr. Chairman, if I may take a point of privilege, if possible.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just a point of information.
I just want to share, Mr. Chairman, when we talk about special events, if we're only having 5 or 6 cars in each district and we have special events downtown, I mean, how many cars are we pulling out at any given time out of these districts to go to downtown as relates to these various different events if we only have 4 or 5 cars in an entire district?
Director, Chief, can you comment?
So through the chair to Councilmember Jones, those are your support sections. So your community service, your vice units, the traffic unit, and that's also all of the other operations that we have. We have volunteers from our homicide, sex crimes, domestic violence unit, property unit. They are all a part of that plan. So when you're seeing the officers who are coming and working these major events, that's where you're seeing the staffing from.
So it's not affecting the car plan
No,
it's
sir.
in the district. So it's just all your specialty units, like my councilman colleague Charles Life talked about, investigation units and stuff. So those are the people who are going down there to actually handle that. And then how many cars, when we're having special events downtown, is actually coming downtown? How many police officers are here on special events?
So through the chair to Councilmember Jones, it varies on the size of the crowds. We use our planning for that. We have a special events coordinator, and we use the federal guidelines for staffing those events. So it depends.
So what's the average, if I may ask, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Director, Chief.
I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, to the chief.
So through the chair to the council member. So there's 2 different deployments when we have these events. We have our traffic deployment, and then we have the crowd management portion. So we'll have X number of traffic posts. I'm just going to say, use an example. Deputy Chief Morris might be able to add a little bit more to this, but on a regular, say a Guardians game, if it's a regular game as opposed to a playoff game, those deployments are a little bit different. So when you look up and down Ontario at East 9th, you'll see either traffic controllers out there or police officers out there manning those particular intersections. On top of the deployment from there, you're going to have members of our community services unit who are here for the crowd management portion, if there's large-scale arrests needed or there's something with the crowd management. So it could be anywhere from, on average, a total of about 70 officers plus that are out here for these major events. When you're looking at a Browns game, it's going to take a lot more for that. When we had this double event this past weekend, it was even more than that. So it's all dependent on that. And we look at each event, how big of a footprint it is, how far it spans out to how much we need to cover in those areas.
Okay. Okay, Councilman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know if Mr. Morris wanted to add.
I was just going to say to the chair, to the councilman, normally we would cancel days off. I don't think we've canceled days off for any events this year. So our officers are stepping up and volunteering to work all these details. On the weekends, you would have people that would normally work Monday through Friday. They're volunteering on Saturdays and Sundays to work a lot of these details. Okay. I just wanted to touch on, to the chair, to Councilman Starr, twice a month, I have a meeting with CMSD and RTA, and we work on the issues that you're referring to. I meet with Chief Dotson from CMSD and Commander Darton from RTA, and for some of those issues, RTA has been great with rescheduling the buses so that people aren't overlapping, and we were trying to mitigate some of those issues that we were having at dismissal times and arrival times. You talked about Commander Valentino in the 4th District at the schools. Whenever we have an issue, we work together. if it's detailing or providing special attention, I know Kennedy was one of the schools we provided special attention to. I'm going to follow up with Commander Valentino about the officers not getting out of the cars. John Adams was another one where we have cars sitting there with their lights on, so we're starting to do that a lot more. The chief sent something out. We want to be more visible, so we're going to have cars sit with their lights on at certain events in certain schools. So if you didn't see, those cars should have their lights on anyway to be seen while they were sitting outside of the school. So if you're not seeing that, give me a call and let me know.
Thank you. Wait a minute.
Thank you,
Councilman, there's
Mr.
other
Chairman.
people on the
Thank you,
list
Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Morris. That's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Stephanie House-Jones.
Yes, just a point of information. So I hope that committee members realize that as you talk about violence interruption, there was the contract specifically for the Southeast side that never got approved. It just got approved within the last week. This one specifically for the Southeast side of Cleveland that, if I'm not mistaken, has gone through the Community Relations Board. And so just because a contract just got approved, there's still no telling when the entity that's supposed to be working in the Southeast side will actually start doing the work, because it takes months for contracts to actually be funded. So I really want the Community Relations Board. That's that. Secondarily, when we talk about the Neighborhood Safety Fund, the Neighborhood Safety Fund, as a member on the Neighborhood Safety Fund, is designed to be a fund that can run in perpetuity, means many, many years before us. It was seeded with $10 million. The first 2 years was committed for $1 million each year. This is the complete. After that, it will be based off the percentage of the revenues of that fund, which likely will be $500,000, which is nothing. We invest in $500,000, which is supposed to be focused on root causes to violence prevention. Violence intervention is a response to the violence when we're trying to focus on violence prevention. So again, as we are throwing stuff out, we need to have much broader context and holistic conversations versus just throwing stuff out here. And again, I feel compelled to say things, being a member on the Neighborhood Safety Fund that does the work to look at the over 100 applications, when funding comes, opportunities, and when we're trying to talk about violence intervention, what we are doing in our community from our small part, it pales into comparison what other communities are doing. And I'm talking about there are other communities that on an annual basis are funding $25, $30, $40 million just in violence prevention. And I think it is unfair and unreasonable to think of many of the people that are in this space of violence intervention, that they are going to be able to do all of this work with no money. And I don't think it's also the responsibility of the city of Cleveland to do everything. And then the final portion, as Councilman Starr just brought up, about all these things happening, there is a real disconnect of holding adults accountable and responsible. We should have a list of people getting charges after all of these events. Again, we've heard the issue with happening in the judicial realm, where there's something happening where we have these incidents, people are not being charged, then going to the court system where people then are not held responsible for their actions. We have to be much more assertive in ensuring that when people are out of line, whoever that adult was that caused a young person to break their leg, somebody needs to pull those tapes, find out who they are, and hold them accountable. This level of tolerance for bad behavior must stop. It really does. And because if we want our kids to be better, the adults need to be better. And they're not going to be better until the adults be better. And we really still need to have some level of accommodation. We have supports when people are dealing with mental health crisis and all that type of stuff. But when people are just acting up, they need to deal with the consequences and have our judicial partners be able to enforce based on whatever charges and let those processes go through. But for all these incidents, we need to start getting into reports of how many people are actually being arrested, period. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleague, Councilwoman House Jones, for this. And I do agree. For the last 3 years, I've been the one who said, and in fact, this past budget, I voted no out of 17 members because I said the budget does not reflect the needs of the community. And when I say the needs of the community, I talk about the issues that we deal in urban neighborhoods, such as the lack of presence and support for programs to help our kids. I believe when you see a spike in crime or you see violence happen with the youth, it is their message of showing how they are lost. Now, for my 16, 17-year career, I've raised children. I've met them where they are at. I help provide them resources that they weren't getting from home to keep them from getting into the block and on the corner. But what all I see is us, we fund everything in this city, but none of the things that is actually needed for our residents. So to that point of the lack of funding for violence prevention strategy, that's never a top priority, I guess, within the city, whether we get the budget or not. But when it's time to be able to make revisions, we don't never take it to ownership to say, we're going to put that in the budget and make it happen. We the same ones who passed the budget where we didn't even have all of the line items in place to understand where all the dollars are at. So what I'm saying is, I didn't run to be on council to be a rubber stamp. I didn't run on council to do this because I was already doing work in the community 16 years long before I ever thought about joining this government. And I'm only 35 years old, so you can tell the math that I'm talking about. So I understand what's going on in this community, and I understand that I'm a part of some of these different committees, and I'm the one who asked the question to try to help in organizations. But also we can rewind back to this neighborhood safety fund. I was the first one that said no to $10 million because I do not believe we need to put $10 million to figure out a long-term strategy. If we're going to still have this problem 20, 30 years from now, the population in Cleveland will not be at 374,000, it'd be less than that. So I was opposed to it. So we settled, because this is what you have to do sometimes to get things out, where we said we were going to send it over to Cleveland Foundation. And if you look at everything that we fund, it was not for the actual things that you need in the community. It was all for programs. And I'm a big stippler. There's a way to get your point across. There's a way, there's enforcement. So when I talk about the kids and the hundreds of kids, yes, I have some that are in prison. Yes, I have some that are passed and died because they didn't want to listen. And I do have some that's playing professional sports all across the country. I have some that is in college with college degrees and a family. I have all type of variation of kids that I've mentored and raised throughout this city. And the strategy that I did was work with them. Work with them. No, we just give people money. They say they doing this, then nothing's get done. They say, hey, I'm gonna do an art, or I'm gonna do this dance class, or I'm gonna do yoga, I'm gonna do all this stuff to help our children, and that's it. I'm talking about having boots on the ground in the neighborhoods on the block. I'm talking about how do we get people on East 28th and Cedar to be able to get them resources for a violence prevention strategy. They don't be doing that because some of them be scared themselves and be hiring people that we funded that is scared to go in the neighborhoods. So therefore, I end up with a meeting with Deputy Chief Morris and Director Drummond, and we sit down at Cedar Estates at the Sterling Library, and we start talking about it, have CMHA at the table. Next thing you know, when we start talking about a plan, folks get scared. But then we also talk about the fact that we know when something go wrong, we want to call the police to come do some part. When I was talking about preventive strategies, those organizations and these different departments, they get afraid, get scared, and people be quitting because they don't really want to do it. But we continue to fund these different things, and that's what I'm calling to the carpet. I will vote no on this budget until we have an actual plan to spend money. So So for anybody got a question, I will vote no again on the budget if it doesn't make sense because we just pacifying the situation. Man, you got people living in poverty, 4 or 5 generations of poverty. Why haven't we figured out a way to help them? We got banks in here investing, making reaching their CRA goals by just being a sponsor on events, but we ain't building houses to help people become homeowners, but they spending $1,200 a month on rent. We got people living in public housing who ain't got grocery stores. We got people dealing with all these different issues, but when you talk about this violence prevention strategy, man, I'm an expert, got a PhD in these streets. Some people don't, some people do. I do not consider myself a career politician, and I won't be here as a career doing the same type of stuff. But I guarantee you this, I won't be voting on nothing that ain't gonna have no strategy where we put actual dollars into the community to solve this, because it ain't just the police. We need to be able to have things on the ground. But we're gonna pass some more levies, I see. We're gonna still keep doing that, and things ain't gonna happen to our neighborhood. So I just wanted to make sure I just
Thank you,
spoke on
Councilman.
that.
Thank you. Okay. Members of the committee, any other comments? Let me just try to wrap this up here. You heard the concerns, Director.
Yes.
Chief, you've heard the concerns. As we go into the full budget round, we allocated the hiring of 181 officers. So based on your numbers today, in the academy, how many will graduate by the end of the year, by December 31st?
To the chair, I know that Deputy Chief Fay is going through his books right now, but as he stated before, there are 73 in the academy.
Right.
Our expectation is that 73 will not 73
They will not,
graduate
that's what I'm saying.
this year. It's 41 will graduate.
41 will graduate.
41 will graduate this year, yes, sir.
So based on the 41, there's a deficit, obviously, of 140 officers that have not been hired. And that's of great concern to us because we've heard the testimony at the table today. That affects our ability for basic patrols, response time, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing I have to say, the great disappointment, and Council President and I have talked about this, we had heard repeatedly from the administration that there would be this aggressive marketing and recruitment plan. And then we were told that as a result of the consultant that was retained, that their anticipated costs were going to be too high, too great, and the administration did not pursue them any further. But I will say again at the table to the administration, to the director, to the chief, unless you embark on an aggressive marketing and recruitment plan, and not just talk about policing, but talk about the benefits of being a police officer, the benefits that come with that, we're not going to be anywhere near our recruitment goals, nowhere near them. And going into next year, I can tell you right now, we are not inclined to reduce the numbers that we're going to allocate. We're going to go with the same numbers again. So I'm stressing again, what we heard again at this table and what we're all experiencing is that we want visibility. We want response time. We want the specialized units filled. We also want, as Councilman House and others have repeatedly said at this table, for people who are engaged in criminal activity, we want accountability. So we just heard yesterday of another individual arrested in what, Port Clinton?
Yes, sir.
That's what, number 4?
Yes, sir.
4 is not enough.
No, sir.
4 is not enough. All these people that come into when they come in from Port Clinton, Cincinnati, Columbus, Akron, wherever, Barberton, that tells us they don't respect our citizens. They don't respect our city. And so, unless you start arresting these folks and charging them, and I hope that you're not through with going over your video
To the
from
chair,
the straight
they're not. The
takeovers.
task force is
Okay.
So just
Get all the
to the
rest
chair,
of them.
could I just comment real
Yeah,
quick
go
on
ahead.
that? So we're starting the top down. We're starting with the organizers and we're going from the
Okay.
top down. So that's not done with that. And I can just, one other thing on staffing. I hope, this time or earlier next year, I'm going to have to come back and ask for more staffing. I hope that, we are dedicated to hitting that
Okay.
number for next year. And
Okay.
I hope I have to come back and ask for more.
I hope that's the case as well, because we're going to wrap this up because we obviously have all these other divisions. Councilman Jones briefly, and we're wrapping it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just, you've done a great job in making the presentation as relates to staffing up. We were told by the previous safety director that if we gave so many millions of dollars, to get that school up, the training school, Shaw School, that you would have numbers that would be impressive, and that was several years ago. And we're still waiting right now. And I guess who is the person that's working with the city of Cleveland right now? That's the consultant that's supposed to help us beef up our police department, Mr. Chairman, to
We don't have one.
the safety director. We don't have one?
No.
I thought we had one. They've been talking about it.
They had one. It was Yellow Jacket.
Little jacket.
Was it Little?
Little Jacket,
Little
yeah.
Jacket, excuse me. And the administration decided not to go forward with their contract.
All right, so now let's deal with another elephant in the room that we really haven't dealt with in the table, Mr. Chairman, is police officers feeling like they got their hands tied behind their back and can't do their work. And so that has been an ongoing thing every time I go out in the public, and when I'm asking questions, when I'm asking why are we chasing people who just stole a car? When we see a person has just stole a car or beat up little Miss Johnson in her yard and jumped in their car, why aren't we going after these people? And so, Mr. Chairman, if we're going to talk about respect, right, then we have to establish respect. And right now, we don't have that. People are doing crimes and committing crimes right in front of the police, and we're doing nothing about it. And then when I ask police officers, why aren't you doing anything, and they're telling me a variety of things, that we will be over-disciplined, we have to contact a supervisor here or a supervisor there in order to do the work. We can't just go and chase them. We can't just go and deal with the issue. We have to call it in to someone and get permission. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'm just, I'm frustrated as an elected official with every time there's an issue happening in the neighborhood, we can't go and get the bad guys. And that's the reason why we have this overrunning of the city of Cleveland. It's the reason why we have all of these big, massive crowds coming into our cities and doing what they want to do, is because we're not doing anything about it. I just showed the chief, an example on my cell phone of, and I showed you too.
Yes, that's it.
We're having all of these fights. And when we talk about, these disruptors, right?
Yeah.
We spent, tens of millions of dollars on disruptors and Sonia Pryor-Jones programs and other programs. We've even sent $10 million to the Cleveland Foundation and others. And we got a couple of million that's being spent at, the police commission. And so for me, as an elected official, these people don't have the power to arrest, but our police do. So I guess the question is, can we come with a better plan and approach than the one that has been broken, that we've been working with, for the last 8 years? Or has it been for the last 12, 13, 14 years? Or since the dissent decree? When did we come with the no chase policy?
To the chair,
chief
council member,
director.
we have a pursuit policy. We do not have a no chasing. I'm sorry,
Well, that's
Chief,
what
for
I call
jumping
it, the
in.
no chase,
We
Mr.
have a
Chairman.
pursuit policy, which are requirements, and which is, by the way, the policies and all of our policies are approved through the CPC as well as the monitoring team and the DOJ and the judge. So we do have a pursuit policy. The officers have to be in compliance with the pursuit policy that we currently have in place.
Thank you, Councilman.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just, when are we going to change that policy? And how we're going to deal with that, it becomes the question, because it's not working. And with the few police officers that we do have, they have to be efficient. They have to arrest these people. We're having our neighborhoods overrun. Our people are afraid. Yes. I'm losing population right now.
Okay.
And you're losing population right now. And every other member of Cleveland City Council is losing population right now because they don't feel safe. So I'm begging you, distinguished gentlemen, and the chief, and all of the staff people who are here, how can we really step back and really look at this situation and try to come up with some type of different approach than what we have. How do we empower our men and women with the ability and capacity to go and get those folks who are disrupting our neighborhoods, causing mayhem and mischief, and then unfortunately bloodshed in our communities?
Okay. Let me, Councilman Gray has.
So how can we do that?
Wait a minute, let Councilman Gray, and then we're going to respond.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I yield to the distinguished lady.
Thank you, Chairman. And on Councilman Jones' point, I just want to say that County Councilwoman Meredith Turner came to me the other day stating that residents in her district, which is in my ward, called her for the drug activity that is continually happening on East 140th and Abel at the food market store. For her to come to me, and now she's getting complaints, and she did not know where to go, but she brought it to my attention because she wanted to know how she can work together with the, with me, with the police department on how to stop the drug trafficking in that area per se, in her district, because she's been over there for years. So to say the least, that we need more attention in our inner city neighborhoods to stop the drug trafficking, and that is now a huge concern with her as well as with the residents who are afraid for their lives. A matter of fact, they said it was a shooting over there this past Saturday at the store. She brought that to my attention. I wasn't aware of it. And then some of the bullets went into a house on East 139th Street, and the store is on East 140th Street. So that's how bad the shooting was. But to say the least, we do need more attention on how to assist the police officers. However, we do have interrupters from the CRB in that neighborhood who are doing a great job. And we do have the prevention and intervention group that were just reallocated at the table to assist. But my question is, when we do get these prevention and intervention, groups, that's supposed to be out in the city helping, we need to vet them more better. We need to vet them instead of just asserting them and looking over their programs, saying, what they're doing and what they're going to do, and they're not doing it. So I do agree with all my colleagues that we need to have more background information to see if this is something they are capable of doing, because nobody don't want to get shot. No one, want to get killed. And this is evidence because people are not in the way that they should be in the way to help our communities with all this killings and drug activity.
Thank you,
So I just
Council
want to
Lady.
say that. Thank you.
And you've heard of concerns. All of us, from the council president on down, have great concerns about, again, visibility, response, you name it, we've got it. We gave you, I want to say this again, we gave you everything you asked for in the budget, and then some. So it was not an issue of money. We gave you everything you needed. What we're looking for is results. We're looking for and I want to say this again, and to go right back to the mayor. He said repeatedly that he would bring on an aggressive marketing recruitment plan. That has not happened. That has not happened. So I find it a little troubling. We can spend $300,000 to redo the red room across the hall, and we can put benches out in the hallway, which none of us asked for, and all this other money that was spent around here. But that was not us. We didn't spend that money. We didn't authorize that money. We got to get our priorities straight here. And if not, we're going to continue to be in this vicious cycle of people going to all of our neighborhood meetings, people being frustrated. They don't see these guys being arrested, these men and women being arrested. They see this chaos, We've heard from business people who don't want to invest. We hear from people, and I've sent some of those emails over, people saying they're not coming into downtown, they don't want to come downtown anymore, et cetera, et cetera. They don't want to go here, they don't want to go there. And so at the end of the day, all I can tell you is this. We are here to work with you. We're here to help you. But again, council cannot hire, we cannot fire, we cannot deploy, we cannot administer. We're prohibited by law. I got to say that again to the viewing public. We can't do any of that. The charter is clear. We cannot do that. We've given you the financial ability. You've got to recruit. You've got to deploy. You've got to do whatever has to be done to try to address. And you know what? We're not going to alleviate crime in this city. Just as poverty's been with us to the end of time, as if I go by the good book, the poor will be with us till the end of time. Unfortunately, crime will be with us to the end of time. But it's maintaining it. It's trying to do what we can to keep a lid on it. And when you see some of the chaos that's taking place in these neighborhoods, it's extremely troubling, and we're here to be partners. So on that point, we've got to come back in because we're breaking.
Just a point of information.
What's the point of it?
Mr. Chairman, you know, we just had this sidebar conversation about the consent decree and the policy that you have, the chase policy you have in place.
Pursuit policy.
Pursuit policy that you have in place. What I would like to get is a real thorough understanding, and this is a request for information, Mr. Chairman. Is there anything that's in this policy that came from the consent decree, or is it related to the consent decree? And if so, why and where are those,
Okay,
those
we'll
areas
request that.
of concern?
Whatever you can provide to us. Okay, we have my brothers and sisters here. We have fire, we have EMS, we have animal care, we have House of Corrections. We are breaking. We are back in here at 140. 140. We're back in here. Okay. Committee is on recess to 140.